try not to say mother challenge.
Look around, everybody home.
Failed.
Are you there, Chanel?
This Halloween, we'll be telling the story of the Kappa sorority girls who are running for their lives as a mysterious masked killer that goes by the Red Devil is killing them all off one by one. Hey, what's up you guys, it's me Luke and welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I post commentary, reaction, and deep dive videos on movies, TV shows, and reality TV with a bit of pop culture sprinkled in between. And you're watching Disney Channel. If you were not on my channel last Halloween or you happened to miss it, I started a deep dive and recap series into Ryan Murphy's iconic cancelled show from 2015, Scream Queens. In this series, I recap the plot of Scream Queens, do a deep dive into the characters and their relationships, keep track of the mystery of the Red Devil and the baby from the bathtub incident, as well as all of the murders and all of the attacks. This show is responsible for some of the most iconic quotes on social media to this day.
You're an awful person.
Maybe. But I'm rich and I'm pretty, so it doesn't really matter.
Want a regular coffee, those white girl pumpkin spice lattes annoy me.
I'm in love. Name?
Senorita Awesome.
So of course I have to cite them and I include clips throughout the video, and we also unpack all of the pop culture references within the show, because although the show is a satire and it's very unserious and funny, it is at the end of the day a slasher horror show with tons of references to classic horror films from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So we are going to be getting into all of that. If you have not already seen the previous 3 videos that I've uploaded on Scream Queens, I will link them down below so you can go ahead and watch them. But if you don't feel like it, or you just don't remember what I discussed in those 3 videos because they came out last Halloween, I will be doing recaps and refreshes when necessary as we go through the plot. I don't want to be spending ages recapping the past 6 episodes we've covered. I just want to get into the mess. In this episode, I'll be covering the next 3 episodes in season 1 of Scream Queens, and then I'll be coming out with another Scream Queens video covering the last 4 episodes of the season. We're going to wrap up this entire story and mystery and finally find out who all of the Red Devils are. So make sure you subscribe and turn on the post notifications bell so you don't miss another upload from me, or else the Red Devil's gonna come for you. Like I said, I'm gonna give you necessary recaps throughout the episode deep dives, but I do just want to give a quick refresh about how the mind map works. Is we've got our green strings, which indicate romantic relationships between characters, our blue strings, which indicate characters who are related to one another, and then we have our red string where we're tracking which Red Devil kills which person, X's which track which character has been killed. So far we've had a lot. This isn't even all of them, these are just the notable characters. And then we also have our little bloody hand, which indicates characters that have been attacked, and over here we have our keys if you ever need a refresh. So we're all caught up on there. I'm so excited to get back into this series, you guys. Last Halloween I just made 2 videos on Scream Queens just for fun. I didn't know if I was going to continue it, and I came back in March with another Scream Queens video, but it didn't perform as well as I would have hoped. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do. It's a whole focus on my favorite episode of the season, but you know, I figured we need to try it again for spooky month. Scream Queens needs to come back for Halloween. It's the happiest time of year after all. But speaking of Halloween, we are so close to the end of the year. We've got so many holidays coming up, and I'm sure you all have lots of different events going on. I recently just went to a Halloween costume party where I dressed up like James from Twilight. You can see that video on my socials. That was a lot of fun. But with the holidays approaching, whether you're going out or going to a party or just having some drinks with family and friends, I highly recommend you check out the sponsor of this video and my new must-have product, ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic developed by PhD scientists to tackle those rough mornings after a few drinks. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for those rough mornings. However, if you drink ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic before your first drink of the night and drink responsibly, it counteracts the byproducts so you can enjoy some drinks the night before and still feel great the next morning. Alrighty guys, it's the next day and I'm honestly so shocked. No headache, no nausea. Today, I'm going to breakfast. I'm having a good old time. That ZBiotic shot was everything. Highly recommend. I'm so impressed. And if you click the link in the top of my description, then you can actually get 15% off your first order of ZBiotics with free shipping. Plus, ZBiotics offers a 100% money guarantee, so if you're not satisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Thank you so much, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this video. And without further ado, let's get into my deep dive into Scream Queens Season 1, Episode 7, 8, and 9, because I'm about to dive in to this mess. Alrighty. Getting into season 1, episode 7, titled Beware of Young Girls. So this episode begins with Chanel number 2's funeral. Chanel is dressed in black, looking stunning, Avi. She walks towards the pink casket that holds number 2's dead body. Not sure how it's still fresh considering she's been dead for weeks, but I digress. And she plays a white rose on her. Well, she says in her voiceover, I think I figured out what my problem is. I'm way too nice. As soon as Chanel number 2's parents learned that their daughter's dead body had been found, they went on a cruise to celebrate.
That's how much they hated this dead bitch.
So when it fell to me to host an open casket funeral and fulfill her dying wish of being cremated and shot into space, I was like, yeah, okay.
So stupid.
She then out loud says to Chanel number 2's corpse, this is what happens to sneaky backstabbers. Number 5 then does the same thing to number 2's body and in her head says, it's a shame you had to die before we found out what your ethnicity was, which I feel is kind of a dig at Ariana Grande's race fishing and excessive spray tanning in the 2010s, but I'm not too confident in that because why would Ariana Grande agree to the writers making fun of her in real life unless she just thought like, OMG, they just added that line because, you know, I'm like Italian or whatever. Mamma mia. Anyways, then Chad lays his rose down on number 2's body and says, I'm gonna miss porking you so much, number 2. Chanel then stands up in front of everyone, like most of the cast is in the room at this point, at this funeral that is in the Kappa living room with a giant pink casket, and she gives her eulogy where she says, and I quote, Dear beloved, we are gathered here today because a backstabbing little bitch got exactly what was coming to her. Chanel number 2 literally never had my back. Whenever I wanted to strut across campus or down a long hallway with the other Chanels, she was always like, I have a colonic. So instead of strutting along campus in a beautiful diamond formation, we were forced to strut across campus in a triad formation, like a bunch of hobos, because number 2 thought that she shouldn't have to walk behind me. But whenever I found myself descending a staircase in heels, you can bet Chanel number 2 was right behind me to give me a nice little shove.
Oops, sorry, Chanel. This dumb, dead whore.
Also use her high ponied wiles to seduce my man into rubbing uglies with her. So I hope you all grasp the fact that this is what happens if you bump uglies with my man. You end up dead. So have fun being dead, Chanel number 2. You were a stupid little trollop.
And I hope you're burning in hell right now. Amen.
I love this speech so much, and I love seeing the cast together and just seeing all their reactions to Chanel's eulogy. It's truly hilarious. Nice to have Ariana Grande back in the show. Clearly she was having a little bit of a break from the honeymoon tour, and she's like, I'll just pop in for a little wee visit in there. Later that day, the Chanels go to check up on Chanel in her closet as she is crying on the floor, clearly disheveled about finding out about Chad's affair with Chanel number 2. I'm not sure how she found out about this so late, because we all found out about this in episode 3, and now it's episode 7.
Can you believe she did something like that to Chanel?
Well, Chanel's a bitch who deserves whatever's coming to her. I just can't believe that Chad didn't tell me. You were dating too.
Chad Radwell? I dated him too last year.
The Chanel's comforting her is really rich considering that they have both also cheated with Chad on Chanel. Been within the affair. Look, I'm not a cheater. I don't know how this shit works. Cheaters, comment down below. Who is the cheater? Who is the cheaty? Who be cheating on cheating? She's a runner. She's a drag star. She ain't gonna run away when it gets hard.
So, do you think you're man enough to take me inside that house and attack my crack?
Chanel gets in a little bit of a tiff with Hester, aka Chanel number 6, because she is not enjoying her sincerity, saying that she should shove it because she also tried to have sex with Chad. And Hester says that she's sorry and she will never betray her trust again. And Chanel's like, you will never have my trust again. You also got me arrested, bitch. And Chanel number 5 is like, look guys, there's like a lot going on right now. There's a lot of heated emotions. And I think the best thing that we can do is to contact Chanel number 2 from beyond the grave. And she pulls out a Ouija board. I myself have not dabbled with a Ouija, nor will I ever. That is not my business. Have you seen the film Talk to Me? I don't want any part of that. Chanel number 3 sums this all up by saying that tonight they're having a Chanel night to heal all wounds with Chanel's living and dead. So they do exactly that, which is really fun and reminiscent of the first episode of the show when they were having the blood oath. The girls are once again sitting in a circle and they've got lit candles all over the room, very spooky, and they've got their cotton balls with duck sauce beside them in case they get hungry for a low-cal snack that could possibly block their intestines and kill them, but it's all about vanity, isn't it? Number 3 explains how they're all going to put their hands on the planchette, which is the thing that moves around the board, and promise not to move it themselves, and then Chanel number 2's spirit will move it when they contact her.
What if Chanel number 2 is busy getting Eiffel Towered by Hitler and Satan?
Let's just try it, okay?
So they all put their hands on the planchette, and Chanel number 3 calls out to Chanel number 2 to come speak forth with them and give them a sign that she's there. And then the planchette starts moving.
Oh my god, it's working.
And number 5 is like, okay, well, we have to ask her something only she would know to make sure that it's really her and not some other like random ghost, you know? And Chanel's like, okay, Chanel number 2, if that's really you, tell us, does Chanel number 5's vagina have teeth? And Chanel number 5 is like, what? No, don't ask her that. So we're bringing up this joke again.
No, the answer is no. No, it no longer has teeth, so it used to have teeth, but you got them removed?
No, I didn't.
So your vagina still has teeth. Which one is it, number 5? Sounds like you're trapped in a web of flies.
Which I didn't reference in the previous episode, but I'm pretty sure this whole gag about Chanel number 5's vagina having teeth, which is referencing that insane cult classic film, Teeth, in which a woman's vagina has teeth. I am ashamed to admit that I did watch that movie when I was a teenager, but I don't think it was my choice. Anyway, after Chanel asks this question, the planchette moves to yes, and she's like, I love this thing. It's definitely Chanel number 2. Because she believes the vagina teeth fiasco to be true. And who knows, maybe it is. If you've got Nash's down below, I'm all about body positivity. The planchette then starts moving on their own, and everyone's freaking out, and they are reading all the letters that the planchette goes to, and it spells out, Chad is cheating on you. And Chanel freaks out, throwing the Ouija board over itself, and says that it's not true. Chad promised he would be monogamous. Monogamous? Monogamous. 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 Why can't I say that fucking word? Monogamous. I'm losing my mind. I feel like I've said it so many times now that it doesn't sound like a real word. Chanel says it's not true because Chad promised he would be monogamous. Okay, I think we got there in the end. And she says that is clearly Chanel number 2 screwing at her from beyond the grave. And she storms out the room. Ooh, trouble in paradise. Oh. I mean, honestly, I'm not one to believe in ghosts, but I believe that Chanel number 2, that Chad is cheating on Chanel because, I mean, context clues. Come on, Chanel. He has slept with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 girls on this board.
You're awful in bed. Are you aware? I mean, just the worst.
Did I not take you there?
But could I've stooped to?
What you talking about? I slept with Chad too, and it was amazing.
It's super weird that you sleep with so many old people.
And those are only the characters that we know. I'm guaranteeing there's a lot more than that. We then cut to Gigi's apartment where she is making dinner, vigorously chopping vegetables. She gets on the phone and it is clearly one of the Red Devils, because remember that we got revealed in the last part that she is the Red Devil's mastermind, like she is in charge of the whole murder situation. She is the ringleader. And in the episode before that, we found out that she was the shag of Haiti Lane, aka the woman who stole or took or kidnapped or took care of the twins, the twin babies of the girl who died in the bathtub at that party in Kappa Kappa Tau sorority in 1995. Grace and Pete, through their investigations, have their current theory that the Red Devil has to be the baby from the bathtub. And then Chad and his crew found out, having been attacked by 2 Red Devils, that there are 2 Red Devils. The current consensus is that the Red Devils, the 2 Red Devils, are the twins who were the babies of the girl, the Kappa sister who died at Kappa Kappa Tau, and they're now seeking revenge for the death of their mother by killing Kappa girls because the Kappa girls left her to die after she gave birth in the bathtub because they were too busy partying to TLC. Wow, when you really say it all out, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but honestly, that's one way I would sum up the show. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Oh my god, that sounds like that Harry Potter spell. Ridiculous.
Ridiculous!
Oh, that was like when they were really scared of something and they would be like, ridiculous, 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 ridiculous. Anyway, I kind of lost track of where we were, but Gigi got a phone call from one of the Red Devils, Curly, and she says, and I quote, "Hello, who's this? No, I'm sorry. I don't know anyone by that name. No, I used to know and love someone by that name, but I forced myself to forget that they exist because they continuously let me down. Yes, I'm talking about you. What's wrong with you? I told you to get rid of him. We are not kidnappers. We are murderers. Hellbent on revenge. I told you this."
That is our brand, and if he's messing with it, he has to go.
Now, I don't want to hear about how this is hard for you, okay? You know what's hard for me? Trying to make Cockavin while managing this whole years in the making revenge plan without anyone's help. And since you guys are so clearly inefficient at killing everyone, I now have to come up with an overly elaborate plan to get the scent off of us too. Wes, Grace's dad, who Gigi is dating, then walks in like, "Hey honey, I'm home." So Gigi turns around and whispers into her phone, "I have to go. Now will you please go kill some people?" "Hi honey. Hi best boyfriend ever. Dinner's ready." Ooh, she's so real for that, honestly. We love a girl who sweeps things under the rug. I mean, normally it's something silly, but she's like, "No, I'm murdering people, and you're not gonna find out about it because you're just a dumb man. I want sweet revenge. Oh, I want him again." The next day, Gigi's out shopping with Grace because Grace is trying to help her revamp her wardrobe because she's perpetually stuck in the 90s because her therapist told her that she had a traumatic event that trapped her psyche in there, and now she dresses like she's from the 90s, but not the good kind of 90s. They're like cringe, middle-aged soccer mom kind of 90s, which, nothing against that. I feel like in the past life, I was a middle-aged soccer mom, so absolutely nothing against that. Claire Dunphy's one of my favorite characters. And the reason Grace is helping Gigi out with this is because her guise is that she says that her dad is super into her, but pretty soon her clothes are going to start bumming him out. And Gigi realizes that this is just a ploy for Grace to talk about her dad because Grace is all like, "So how's he doing? Is he still mad at me?" And Gigi's like, "No." And clearly there's just a reason for you to talk to me about your dad, but it's okay. It's really touching how close you guys are. And she says that she really likes Grace's dad. She likes his play playlist, the borderline creepy way that he looks out for Grace, and the fact that he hasn't dated anyone in 18 years, but somehow manages to make it not super weird. He's kind of the perfect guy, which honestly I agree. Wes, Gardner, Daddy. While Gigi's looking through some clothes, she just so randomly brings up the topic to Grace of her and Pete doing their investigative reporting around campus and asks if Grace has looked into a girl named Feather McCarthy, because she was a sister at Kappa a couple years ago and left the house with a lot of drama surrounding her. And Dean Munch was involved. She heard. She just so happened to hear. And Grace asks Gigi if she thinks Feather has a vendetta out against Kappa, but Gigi says she'd be more interested in Dean Munch's thoughts on the matter. So clearly Gigi is trying to point the suspicious finger at Dean Munch, which is interesting considering her and Wes already tried to accuse her of being the killer in season 1 episode 3 during the Chainsaw Fiasco Situación Saga, if you watched the previous video. So it's another day and we get to meet Feather McCarthy because Grace and Pete are trying to do some investigative journalism with her, and they want to hear her side of the story about why she left Kappa and her thoughts on Dean Munch. And Feather says that whatever it is, Dean Munch did it.
That woman is friggin' nuts.
She made the mistake of crossing her once and it got dark. So we hear her story. Feather sits down and we get into a series of flashbacks along with her narration. So Feather says that 2 years ago she met Dean Munch's husband, Dr. Munch, and they got involved. He was her Beatles 101 professor. And I just have to say, like, side note, being a Beatles professor is a thing. Like, that is a class, that is a course. Like, what job are you getting from that? Then again, they have Taylor Swift classes and courses at universities nowadays. No tea, no shade. I love Taylor Swift. She's my fave. You know that. I'm just saying, I don't understand how a whole college curriculum could be centered around one artist. I digress. So Feather and Dr. Munch then start kissing, and Feather's narration says that they had a little rendezvous. But when we broke the news to Dean Munch, she went crazy. We then see a flashback of Dr. Munch telling Kathy Munch he wants a divorce because he's in love with Feather. Dean Munch throws something through the glass door, smashing it, and Feather says that she knew then that Dean Munch would come after her. She kicked Dr. Munch out of the house, and he had to move into Kappa house. We then see Dr. Munch chilling with all the Kappa girls, playing card games with Feather as well, when Dean Munch comes in and is wearing the exact same outfit as Feather. We then see a montage of Dean Munch just showing up in random places in front or behind of Feather wearing the exact same outfit as her. It's honestly really slay. Like, if you're gonna stalk someone, do it with a bit of flair. I'm kidding, don't stalk people. She then says Dean Munch pulled some strings and got her kicked out of Kappa house, so she couldn't show her face on campus and has been finishing her education online. After the divorce went through, Steven, aka Dr. Munch, got his house back and she moved in with him, but a week later she was home with period cramps and having a bubble bath, listening to music on Dr. Munch's old iPod thing that you have to like plug in and it picks up music from the air, and Pete corrects her saying a transistor radio, and she's like, yeah, and then we see a flashback of a hand pushing said radio into the bathtub and Feather got electrocuted. Luckily she survived, but Pete does point out that that is the exact same way the previous dean died, which then made Dean Kathy Munch get promoted from associate dean to dean, so it stands to reason that this is highly likely that it was her, considering it was done before. And if we remember from the pilot, when Munch was talking to Chanel and Chanel was saying that it was pretty convenient that the old dean died, giving Dean Munch her promotion, she made the whole jab and joke like, oh yeah, I killed my 80-year-old colleague by throwing a transistor radio in her bathtub, ha 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 ha. It was supposed to come across as sarcasm, but Neoria theory that it was not. Back in present day, Grace tells Feather that they're working on a story about how Dean Munch is behind all of the murders on campus, and will she go on record as a source, and Feather says, you bet I will. So classic Grace and Pete jumping to conclusions. They get one little shred of a theory and they're like, oh, Dean Munch is the killer. They did the exact same thing with Chad Radwell, and now they're doing it with her. Girl, don't quit your lack of a day job, because you do not do well to be an investigative reporter, because you need suspects, you need proof, you need motive. Like, you know what, Dean Munch does make more sense than Chad, because, I mean, let's not forget that she was part of the cover-up with the dead bathtub pregnant girl and like the disappearance of the babies and all that kind of stuff. So I will give them that. This theory has a bit more legs, but it does irk me how they jump from theory to theory on their Nancy Drew shit. So later that night, we see Feather arrive to her home where she lives with Dr. Stephen Munch. She then sees an arrow on the floor, thinking it's ketchup because she's clearly an idiot. And then she looks up to see a severed arm on the wall covered in blood pointing up the stairs, written in blood on the wall to say, go this way. So now she's like, OMG, I guess that's not ketchup, it's blood. She screams and she walks up the stairs, and it's really cool. I love this. This is some horror element, you know? This isn't goofy, this is some serious shit. We're seeing a severed arm, we're seeing writing in blood. The blood is like pointing her in directions. We see a foot saying, step this best way. It's funny, it's goofy. She then walks into a room after following the bloody directions where she sees Dr. Stephen Munch's decapitated head floating in a fish tank. And this is a bit of a different murder we've seen this season because we've mainly seen the Red Devil kill Kappa girls or Dickie Dollar Scholar boys or people associated with them like Miss Bean or Mandy Greenwall or people who are just like in the general vicinity and in the wrong place, wrong time like Chandel. But this is kind of the first murder that we see that kind of has nothing to do with Kappa. So it's very peculiar. And I really love this scene of Feather following the bloody directions. And by bloody directions, I mean like bloody directions, not like bloody directions, not like in a British shit way. But it's a really cool scene. And I believe from my research that it's inspired by a film, a 1980s film called He Knows You're Alone, which is about a woman who's being stalked. And there's also a scene with a decapitated head in a fish tank. So one of those references, this one, not one that I know of. There's a couple references that I've pointed out of movies that I haven't watched but I've heard of, but I've never heard of this one. But once again, Ryan Murphy's and his Girls and Gays are bringing out all of those 1960s, 70s, and 80s and 90s classic horror film references. We love to see it. As always, comment down below if you've watched this film. I'd love to know. Moving on. Elsewhere that night, we cut to the Dickie Dollar Scholar fraternity house where Chanel is walking up the stairs calling out to Chad. She's all like, Chad, Chatty, I think we need to talk. Chatty, am I gonna be like, Chatty, Chatty, Chatty Daddy. Stop! But when she walks into Chad's room, she sees him laying on bed in his underwear with a goat. Goat. Him and the goat jump out of bed and Chad's like, this is not what it looks like.
Are you having sex with a goat?
Now this is funny for two reasons. Well, three. One, there have been bestiality jokes in the show. Ha ha ha, bestiality. It's a reference to the pilot where Chanel was talking to Dean Munch about all of the gripes and grievances that she has with Kappa. And one of the things was Dean Munch saying that there have been reports of bestiality. And Chanel was like, no one forced that goat to get as drunk as he did. That's on him. And number three, this is very reminiscent of episode 2 where Chad was caught in bed with Boone.
This is not what it looks like.
He has a huge boner!
So there are allegations out against Chad of homosexuality and bestiality. I don't like that I put those two things in the same sentence. Anyway, Chanel point blank asked Chad if he's having sex with a goat after he promised that he would be monogamous. But Chad says that he has been monogamous. Even though he rubs one out every 5 to 10 minutes and has been watching a ton of porn, he has not cheated on her. Oh, romantic. Chanel calls Chad a liar, saying that number 2 told her that he's cheating from beyond the grave and now she finds him in bed with a farm animal? Pretty suspicious, Chatty. Chad is offended that Chanel just called the goat a farm animal and says she has a name. Her name is Rami and she is a non-human helper companion. And this is adorable. I've always wanted a goat. They're so cute. Have you heard of goat yoga? I would love to do it. Chanel doesn't believe this and says that she's breaking up with Chad. Again, like literally for the 4th, 5th time. I can't keep track. And she goes to leave, but Chad tells her to stop and says that she is going to hear him out. So she gives him 30 seconds to give his plea. So Chad sits down with a heavy chest and tells Chanel that his whole life he's lived with a secret shame. He's lactose intolerant. And Chanel tells him that's insane. And Chad tells her, and I quote, "No, it's not insane, Chanel. Lactose intolerance afflicts 50% of the human population who spend their entire lives walking past a Baskin-Robbins knowing that if they have just a little bit of ice cream, they're gonna fart a bunch."
They're gonna fart a bunch.
Oh my god, we love the lactose intolerance representation. Can I get some IBS peeps in the comments down below though? When am I gonna get my IBS representation? It's a silent killer. Anyway, Chad continues saying, and if you weren't so ignorant and you cracked open a book every once in a while, you would know that goat's milk is lactose free. And if I gently rub Rami's belly for 8 to 10 minutes, she will relax enough to allow milking that could yield up to 2 liters of nutritious lactose-free protein.
That keeps this bod looking hot, Chanel.
And honestly, speak your truth, Chad. You don't deserve to be discriminated against because of the fact that you cannot digest lactose. And Chanel realizes the errors of her way and apologizes for doubting Chad and letting Chanel number 2 get in her head from beyond the grave. But Chad tells her that she can't let dead people get to her because they're super pissed off that they're dead. And they're coming from a place of anger. And Chanel's like, yeah, you're right, Chad. And Chad's like, you know what I think would make the situation better? If we have sex. And Chanel's like, oh my god, Chatty, that would be so good. But Chad's like, okay, give me a minute because Rami's ready to be milked. Those udders are bursting. This is such a random and silly scene. But honestly, I love it. I love goats. I think they're so adorable. The most underrated farm animal in my opinion. Like if I'm going to a petting zoo, I'm petting that goat. I love a little goat, especially the mini ones. They're so friggin' cute. I wish that it was legal to have one as a pet, but maybe one day. We then cut to Dean Munch's office where she is drinking some scotch as she always do. And she's sitting with Detective Shizm while icing her knee, saying that she was so drunk she fell down the stairs at her apartment, but he says that he's been to her apartment and she doesn't have stairs. So confirmation that these two are fucking. She then places her hand on Detective Shizm's knee and he tells her that this is awkward because they're friends, but she's all, oh, detective, when my mouth has been where it's been on your bodies, I think it's safe to say we're a little more than friends. Oh, she's eaten with that. Anyway, Detective Shujim gets up and tells Munch that they've been investigating these murders on campus, and it's been really hard for them to connect them because they haven't been able to find a real motive until now. He tells her about how someone killed and dismembered her ex-husband last night and put his head in a fish tank. She asks if that bitch Feather McCarthy is dead, and he says no, and she's like, damn, what a bummer. And he goes on telling her that him and the guys at the station are pretty sure that she did it, as indeed Munch did it. She has motive, and no one actually saw her at the White Stallion last night, as she claims, and she has all the markings of someone who's been in the fight. And since the murder was kind of brutal, it kind of makes sense that she might be behind all the recent killings on campus, so she's under arrest. Pretty awkward, right? And Dean Munch doesn't really take this seriously, because who does take Detective Shizum seriously? He's a pathetic waste of space of a man who doesn't deserve to be in the police industry, as most of the people in the police industry. ACAB, am I right? Anyway, after a little bit of flirty back and forth, Dean Munch is like, okay, arrest me, and he's like, no, I'm not kidding. Guys, come in. And he has a bunch of guys come in, and she's like, are you serious? And they put her in a straitjacket, and she's like, is this really necessary? And he's like, well, this is for the safety of all of us. And they escort Dean Munch out of her office onto campus, where a bunch of people are taking photos of her and staring at her as she gets taken into a cop car, very reminiscent of when Chanel got arrested. And we see another person in the crowd looking at her, which is Feather McCarthy, looking pretty shuffed and McGuffed with herself. Is McGuffed a word? I don't know, let's make it a thing. So that night at Kappa House in the kitchen, Grace and Pete have a map of the campus with all of the murder locations marked with the victims. Grace says that Dean Munch is the only suspect that could have been at every murder site. The only one that gets a bit tricky to pin was the one where her dad and Gigi got attacked in the house. Remember in episode 3 when Dean Munch was upstairs? Like, it just wouldn't have made sense for her to get dressed in the devil costume in that amount of time. But Pete points out that the Dickie Dollar Skull Boys said that they were 2 red devils, so it could have easily have been her accomplice. Dean Munch was part of the cover-up 20 years ago with the bathtub pregnancy, and she openly states that she hates Kappas, which is a clear motive, and there have been no new killings ever since she's been arrested. He flips around his computer and says that he's comfortable moving forward with the story, and the headline reads, Cops Finger Dean Munch. Okay. They both feel so satisfied, like they've solved this case, but there's still so many unanswered questions, like who is the baby from the pregnant woman who died in the bathtub, and who is the old shag of Haiti Lane, etc., etc. But you know what? I feel good. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't now. So good, so good. They're feeling safe, and Pete gets all cozy up to Grace, saying, remember when you said we couldn't kiss until we solved who was the killer? And Grace was like, yeah, well, it wouldn't be right to kiss when people are dying, but now, and they're about to kiss, but classic, they get interrupted by a phone call, and it's Grace getting a phone call from Dean Munch from the insane asylum saying that she wants to meet up with them tomorrow. So we cut to the next day at said event. A nurse takes them to Dean Munch, who is drawing like a 4-year-old, saying that she's designing formal wear. It's an old hobby of hers, and now that she has free time, she can finally get back to it. And she also has another patient there who's like being her assistant, and she tells her to refresh her drink and give her more ice, which is so hilarious. She's already running that place. Grace and Pete are surprised that Dean Munch likes being in the insane asylum, but she's like, oh yeah, therapy twice a day, plenty of time to rest and dream again, you know, no booze obviously, but the meds are divine. The little blue ones make your organs feel like they're floating in a warm bath, and honestly, sign me up. Dean Munch then points out another patient who is painting, saying Picasso over there has been here 30 years and can leave whenever she wants, but she knows it doesn't get better than this. And Munch says that she likes to paint the patients, and that woman, while painting, looks back to Grace and Pete and says in a very creepy way, I paint them all.
I paint them all.
Will we come back to this? I guess we'll see. He cuts to the chase saying he doesn't understand why Dean Munch called them there, and Munch says that Detective Shizum is lazy. He thinks that this case is solved and won't investigate further, but she knows that if she gives them a lead, they won't be able to rest until they crack it. And she won't rest until Feather is executed by the state for the crime of murdering her ex-husband. They're surprised that Dean Munch thinks Feather did it, and Munch says that she knows Feather did it, and she wouldn't be surprised if she had something to do with the other killings. Munch says, and I quote, Feather is troubled, and she always has been. You know, I knew she was no good as soon as I saw her in that bathtub.
Don't trust a girl with a huge bush of pubic hair. Makes me think she has something to hide.
Pete's like, oh, you saw her in the bathtub, right? So you were the one who clearly knocked the transistor radio in there, huh? And Dean Munch is like, wait, what? Anyway, realizing she's been caught. And Pete is not having Dean Munch's performance, saying, look, we already did our story on the death of your ex-husband, and it all led back to you. And Grace tells her that they're now working on a new story. What happened to the baby at the Kappa party of 1995? A nurse then comes over and brings Dean Munch her lunch, and she's getting really pissed, saying that she already told her that she can't eat deli meats. The sulfates in them send her into anaphylactic shock. No salami, and certainly no bologna. baloney. There's a lot of baloney talk in this episode, so get ready for it because it makes me queasy. Baloney, bologna,
Baloney.
is disgusting. And Dean Munch is appalled that this nurse tried to feed her deli meat when she has clearly expressed that she is allergic.
It's a lawsuit.
And honestly, I don't blame her. You're a nurse. You're supposed to take care of people. You should know what they're allergic to. But I digress. Pete gets back to the topic at hand and tells Munch that they will be her lackey, but only because they want to know more information about that Kappa baby. But he wants her to know that he thinks that she killed them all and he hopes that she gets the electric chair for it. Grace and Pete go to leave, but they get stopped by that patient who paints the other patients, and she gives them a painting that she painted of them, and they're like, oh wow, that was fast.
I paint them all.
And as investigative journalists, you should wonder, why does she keep saying that? Who could have possibly been here? Let me get more information. But no, you're stupid. Back at Kappa House, Grace and Pete are looking over a bunch of information that they got from the police station, from the crime scene and evidence of the murder from Dr. Stephen Munch. And Grace asks Pete how he got Detective Chisholm to hand over all this evidence, and he says he just threatened to file a Freedom of Information Act suit and told Chisholm that it would take weeks of paperwork and a trip or two down to the courthouse for him to hand it over. So he just handed over the keys to the file cabinet and he grabbed it anyway. And he is seriously the laziest detective of all time. And we have been knowing this. Anyway, one of the photos of the evidence from the crime scene is a picture of a half-eaten sandwich covered in Dr. Munch's blood. The transcript reads that the fingerprints were obscured by blood, but considering that the blood of the bread was Dr. Munch's and that his hand was found decapitated across the room without any gloves on, investigators surmise that the killer made a sandwich after murdering Dr. Munch, the sandwich which was a bologna sandwich. And then Grace remembers that Dean Munch said that she's allergic to bologna, so how could she be the killer if the killer ate a bologna sandwich? Yes, the crux of this case and what helps us solve it and the clear, damning evidence is none other than a bologna sandwich. You can't make this stuff up. Pete then says that they have to get some of Feather's DNA to compare it to the DNA of the teeth marks from the bologna sandwich, and that DNA evidence would still be at the crime scene because Feather used to live there, and Grace grabs everything and tells Pete that they have to go, because if Dean Munch isn't the killer, that means that Feather could be, and that the killer is still out there. So that night, still at Kappa House, back with the Chanels, they're in another dark candlelit room with the Ouija board trying to contact Chanel number 2 again. They call out to number 2 asking if she's there, and the planchette moves to hello, so they realize she is, and Chanel starts ranting to number 2 from beyond the grave, saying, and I quote, "Hi Chanel number 2, it's Chanel. I freaking had it with you. Thanks a bunch for lying and saying that Chad was cheating on me with the goat, when in reality he has a disability and eats healthy lactose-free goat's milk."
She never said anything about a goat.
Don't interrupt me when I'm talking to a dead girl.
Chanel number 6, aka Hester, then asks a question that only Chanel number 2 would know if she was there to make sure that it's her, by asking her how many tampons she has in her purse, and the planchette moves to spell out 9, and Hester pulls out the 9 tampons from her purse saying, "There's 9. She's here."
She's right. Why do you have 9 tampons? How big is your cooch?
And then Chanel goes on saying, if it's really you, number 2, you should be able to answer this question from beyond the grave. Who is the killer? And then the planchette moves around the board and spells out, "It's you, Chanel." All the other Chanels freak out, and Chanel stands up and throws the Ouija board across the room and yells at number 2 saying that she's done with her. She better have fun in hell with Osama bin Laden, and storms off. Okay, a lot of commentary about terrorists in this episode. Ryan Murphy, what's your fascination with terrorists? Interesting. We then cut to the other Chanels freaking out in the bathroom. Number 6, aka Hester, says that Chanel number 2 is telling the truth from beyond the grave. Chanel is the killer. Number 3 asks if they should really be trusting a satanic talking board, but number 6 is convinced.
It knew how many tampons.
Number 3 says that a talking board won't hold up in court, and even if it did, there's no jail that could hold Chanel. She got out last time, but then she realizes, like, oh yeah, that's because I bailed her out. Hester is fear-mongering them all, saying that they're not safe, and Chanel is going to come after them, and there's only one solution. They have to kill Chanel. Oh my god. No. We then cut to the kitchen where Chanel number 5, 6, and 3 are having cocktails while discussing how they're going to kill Chanel, and Hester says they all agree that she has to die. But the question is how? Because they have to be sneaky about it, because if not, she will smell a rat and kill them first. Number 5 suggests that they poison her bras, and no one really understands this, so she goes on saying, get this. So we soak all of her bras in poison, then once they're dry, she puts them on, and we're like, Chanel, there's a new Barney's Co-op down the street, hurry, and then she'll put one on, and she'll start running, and she'll start to sweat, and then the poison will seep through her nips and kill her. Number 6, aka Hester, says that that's a horrible idea, and she suggests that they take all of Chanel's diamonds and crush them into a powder, and then have a sugar party where everyone eats bowls of sugar, except Chanel's bowl isn't filled with sugar, it's filled with powdered diamonds that slice open her esophagus and kill her from the inside. Very creative idea, I'll give her props for that. But number 5 is like, that's a horrible idea, what the hell is a sugar party? But number 3 tells number 5 to shut up and says it's a great idea. Chanel then enters the kitchen asking what's a great idea, and everyone is freaked but number 6 handles it by saying, oh, Chanel, we were just talking about having a sugar party. And Chanel's like, oh, a party where everyone eats bowls of sugar? I love those. Has anyone seen my prunex? I'm in a lot of pain. Number 5 asks what that is, and Chanel yells at her, it's a liquid laxative, number 5. Some of us with souls who aren't friendless psychopaths find the stress of having a mass murderer on campus makes them slightly irregular. Now I'm taking some of my prunex and going to bed.
Good night, sluts.
She finds her prunex, leaves the kitchen, and the other Chanels are pissed. And number 6 says, okay, we're doing it tonight. Once the prunex knocks her out cold, we're murdering Chanel. Oh my god, I love a friendship murder thing. In the context of the show, not real life, please don't murder your friends. We then cut to Chanel's bedroom where she's tossing and turning in her sleep, and we see somebody open her door and go to the foot of her bed. She wakes up and sees that the person at the foot of her bed is none other than Chanel number 2.
I thought you were dead.
I am dead. I'm burning in hell.
And it's really fun to see Ariana Grande again. I mean, we saw her in the funeral scene and now we're seeing her again. Chanel number 2's ghost says, I came back from the grave to apologize to you. And Chanel's surprised by this, but number 2 says, yeah, that's right. See, despite what you've heard, hell sucks. Girl, I don't think anyone thought that hell was good. But she says it's not fun. Yes, there are water slides, but they're lined with razor blades and you splash down into a pool of boiling pee. Also, 0 dinosaurs. And Chanel's like, what? There are no dinosaurs.
As soon as I got there, I was like, where are the dinosaurs? And they were like, Jesus broke in and stole them.
Dinosaurs are beloved creatures. Why would they be in hell? They would clearly be in heaven. Da-doink. Anyway, number 2 goes on saying, also, do you know what my job is? I have to pick out food out of Uday and Hussein's beards with my teeth for the rest of eternity. Anyway, a little reference, I had to Google this. Those are the sons of a deceased Iraqi dictator named Saddam Hussein. So once again, Ryan Murphy obsessed with like terrorists and dictators from the Middle East. What is the political climate for this? Anyway, number 2 goes on saying, yesterday I marched right up to the front of the desk and asked, what do I have to do to go to heaven? And they told me I have to make things right with you, Chanel. So that's what I'm here to do. I've always admired you. I'm sorry I never told you that. I guess I was just intimidated by your beauty and intelligence. And I'm sorry that I had sex with Chad Radwell. I was just jealous. I just wanted what you had.
And I really needed my tube packed.
Ryan Murphy, when I catch you in the streets, get my tube packed? What straight woman talks about sex that way? Gay men, do not talk about women having sex. Tube packed? What is she, a sausage casing? Anyway, I'll move on from this, but this dialogue, Willem Dafoe, it dumbfounds me. I don't get it. But I'm gonna move on because I can't debate the politics of getting your tube packed. I just can't do it. Chanel asked number 2 why she then said that Chad was cheating on her, and number 2 says, I don't know. I must have just been in a bad mood that day because Adolf Hitler was motorboating my boobs. Ryan Murphy, when I catch you in the streets, these hands are gonna... I can't. A lot of talk about hell in the last 2 episodes, and you know what? That's fine. Heaven, hell, everybody's got an idea of what it is, so Ryan Murphy, I guess this is your interpretation of it. Anyway, Chanel accepts number 2's apology and says that she's sorry that she got murdered, and Chanel number 2 then gives Chanel some advice and tells her that the other Chanels are trying to murder her tonight. They're on the way back from the mall with a bowling ball that they're going to use to bash her head in as soon as she passed out from her prunex. Damn, that's graphic. And why a bowling ball? You couldn't have found something around the house to bash her head in with? And can you buy bowling balls at the mall? So many questions. Chanel says that she's just gonna have to kill the other Chanels first, but number 2 tells her to be the bigger person because the girls need her. Kappa needs her. Be the leader that she knows that she can be. Chanel then wakes up and guess what? It was all a dream. Because of course it was, because that's a cliche of television. So then we cut to Grace and Pete breaking into Feather and Dr. Munch's house, and Pete does that same thing he did in episode 2 when he was breaking into Dean Munch's office, where he tries to do the whole spy cutting through the glass in a circle thing, but the glass just smashes, and I giggle. I giggle every time. I think it's really funny. It's very comical. I'll giggle. And is that a crime? No. That's my prerogative. Anyway, so Grace and Pete go up to the bathroom where they find the toothbrushes, and then we cut to another scene the next day in the Kappa house living room where the 2 of them are talking to Detective Shizem, who tells them what the evidence of the DNA from the toothbrush brought up. Detective Shizem tells them that the DNA is a perfect match, and that the lab said that the person who used this toothbrush is the same person that made and ate that bologna sandwich. And he says, it always bugged me why someone would go through all that effort to make a sandwich and not finish it. It's pretty suspicious behavior. He says, having done nothing about it. Anyway, he goes on saying, I guess all that killing and dismembering and pretending that it wasn't her made her hungry, but not that hungry. And she would have gotten away with it if only she was hungry enough to finish that bologna sandwich. So, ladies and gents, Feather is the killer of Detective Dean Munch. And Detective Shizem tells Grace and Pete that it was great work. The Force owes them. This whole campus does, I suppose. And I love this. It's so goofy. It's very much giving Scooby-Doo, like, I wouldn't have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. Grace then asks Detective Chisholm, what about Dean Munch? And on cue, Dean Munch then shows up as if she was waiting for her entrance. And she says that she was released as soon as Feather was arrested. And she's pissed off she didn't get to see her dragged in chains because she heard she cried like a little bitch. Grace asks Munch if she really thinks that Feather is behind all the killings on campus because, I mean, how is she related to all that happened in 1995 with the bathtub incident? But Munch says that she's not sure about all that, but what she is sure about is that Feather McCarthy
Is Feather McNutty.
She then shows everyone her iPad, saying that she did a little digging and found out that Feather had a website called ilovebaloney.org. She's what a psychiatrist friend of hers would refer to as a papillocalifilifacist. Capicalifacist. That word, I don't really know what it means.
A capicolifilist?
But Dean Munch goes on saying she thought that that meant someone who is turned on by the sight and feel of lunch meat, but it's more disgustingly someone who's turned on by someone who pronounces bologna the way that it's spelled. Bologna.
Bologna.
So much bologna talk. I used to have to eat bologna growing up, and it was always disgusting. Detective Chisholm says that this is what he and the guys down at the local PD call an orgy of evidence.
Now,
But they don't actually have motive for Feather that ties her to all the recent killings. But statistically speaking, the chances that there is a woman capable of murdering and dismembering her boyfriend and the whole other crazy creative killer on campus being here at the same time is pretty slim. Okay, so you found proof that Feather is the killer for Dr. Stephen Munch, and you just think because there's another killer on campus, it just has to be her? Once again, laziest detective ever. Like, everything we know about the Red Devil is that they're targeting Kappa girls and people involved with them, like the Dickie Dollar Scholars. What does Feather have to do with that? What does Dr. Stephen Munch have to do with that? Use your brain. Like, I know Feather was a Kappa girl, but that was years ago. She no longer is. I just can't with the stupidity of these detectives. Lose your job, get fired, go back to school. But you clearly don't have the intellect to be a detective. Anyway, I can't anymore. Dean Munch thanks Grace and Pete for cracking the case and says that order has been restored. She goes to leave, but Grace follows her, saying that they had a deal, and she said that she would tell them about what happened to the baby and how Feather is related to all of this because there's no way that she's the killer if she has no connection to the baby. But Munch tells her to come to her office alone next week to discuss it. Grace doesn't want to wait that long and asks to talk about it now, but Munch tells her, I'm running an institution of high learning
And designing dresses for award season. Give me a break.
And honestly, I love her delusion because Dean Munch, I hate to crack your dream, but you have literally no talent. A 4-year-old at kindergarten painting dresses and drawing figurines has more talent than you, so pack it up. Kate Winslet is not wearing your dress to the Oscars, and I do have to tell you that because this delusion is not the solution. The Delulu is not the Solulu. And I would know. I'm pretty delusional. I'm making this video expecting people to watch it. That was really sad. Later that day, still in the living room of the Kappa house, Chanel is talking to her Chanel minions, saying that she knows that they're trying to murder her.
What? No.
Chanel, that's insane.
I would sooner kill my own mother. Can it, manatees?
But Chanel tells them that they can it because she knows the truth because she's smarter than all of them. But she's just curious, what the hell is taking them so long? And number 3 blurts out that they couldn't agree on a way to do it. She continues saying they considered putting rat poison in her Prunex, but were worried that she would taste it and run to the hospital. And Chanel says, and I quote,
See, this is why you turdlets need me.
you're not even competent enough to kill one lousy sorority co-president. Newsflash, rat poison only works because rodents don't have a gag reflex. If you gave a human rat poison, they would immediately puke it all up. So not only would I have survived your attempt on my life, it would have also made me skinnier. The Chanels all apologize to Chanel, saying they're sorry, but they only wanted to murder her because they thought that she was the killer and they now realize how stupid it was. Chanel says that she's willing to let bygones be bygones because she's sorry too. She should have been a better leader, and she realized that with the help of Chanel number 2 during a Prunex fever dream. So in an effort to buy back their friendship, she's got them all presents. They open their presents and it is a little spy hat and a giant magnifying glass, and Chanel says that she got them these Nancy Drew sleuthing type hats and a huge magnifying glass so that they could catch the killer as a team. Hester says that they already caught the killer, but Chanel tells them to trust her. Feather McCarthy is not the killer. She's met that girl and she is beyond stupid. There's no way she's capable of killing that many people. But there are 2 killers, and their names are Grace Gardner and Zayday Williams. Yes, the Chanels don't have much proof that Zayday and Grace are the killers, but they don't need it because they're the 1% echelon and they have money and power so they can bend the law to their wills. And she says, I may remind you that the killing spree began when those 2 walked into this house. They're trying to bring down the sorority and steal our hot, popular boyfriends. The 4 of us are going to expose those sluts for the killers that they are and restore order to Kappa Kappa Tau. Huh? Oh my god.
Do I make myself clear, you whores?
So in the end, all the shenanigans, Ouija board conversations, crew necks fever dreams and attempted murders brought the Chanels closer together. And is that not what friendship is all about? You can try and kill your friend, but the main thing is that you didn't. We then cut to Dean Munch's apartment when she lights a fire, has a glass of red wine, a silky robe on, and puts on a record player and dances around. Honestly, my ideal night. The song that plays from her record player is Beware of Young Girls by Dory Peverin, which is also the title of this episode, so it's all full circle. The song basically talks about a younger woman stealing your man and going to your wedding and dancing on your grave, etc., etc. So Dean Munch is dancing around her apartment as we hear her voiceover saying, "I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling good. Not because that little bitch Feather is going to prison after killing my ex-husband. I'm feeling good because she's going to prison after not killing him."
Feather didn't kill my hubby. I did.
She gagged. We then see a flashback of Dean Munch holding her ex-husband's decapitated head and throwing it in the fish tank, and her narration continues saying, "With a serial killer on the loose, it was perfect timing. I knew the murder would probably just get lumped in with all the others, and with the cops desperate to stop the killer before he killed again, I knew they'd be sloppy with the evidence. Try not to say mother challenge, I love you." We then see another flashback of her in the kitchen making a bologna sandwich with gloves on, and she uses one of those mechanical teeth-biting things to bite the sandwich and rubs Feather's toothbrush on the bite so her DNA is on the sandwich, and her voiceover continues saying, "I had the bologna idea years ago when a cherubic little co-ed wandered into my office." We then see a flashback of Feather in Dean Munch's office saying, and I quote, "I think I should get at least 3 credit hours of foreign language because my family summered in Bologna. Do you know where Bologna is? It's in Italy. Bologna is amazing. Bologna is my favorite. I love Bologna."
Bologna. I could go on about Bologna all day long.
I never thought I would talk this much about bologna. I didn't think about bologna until I watched this episode. Bologna, Bologna, tomato, bologna. My brain feels fried. Anyway, still in this flashback, Munch tells Feather, "You know, if you love bologna so much, you should start a blog about it. I could definitely get you some extra credit for that." And Feather says, "That's great. What a great idea." She goes to leave the office and tells Dean Munch, "You're really lucky to have such a hot husband. Dr. Stephen Munch is really cute." So Dean Munch clocks that tea and is like, "Oh, okay, so you're coming from my man." In present day, she's dancing around her apartment in a silky robe drinking red wine. Munch continues with her narration saying, "Sorry, Feather, but you messed with the wrong dean of students." And we then see Feather in a straitjacket getting locked in a glass box with holes in it, very much giving a modern day Hannibal Lecter cage. She's sobbing and screaming, saying, "I didn't do it." And Dean Munch's voiceover continues saying, "Here's to young girls getting what they had coming to them. You know what they say, nothing tastes as good as revenge feels." Actually, they don't say that. I sort of made that up. But here's something they do say.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
And the scene cuts between Dean Munch dancing in her silky robe with her red wine and celebrating, and Feather screaming and sobbing in her straitjacket in the glass cage, and it honestly eats. She got away with it, and it wasn't because of you stupid meddling kids. And honestly, it's not even that relevant to the overall plot of the show or the season, but I love this storyline so much. Dean Kathy Munch, aka Jamie Lee Curtis, you ate this down boots, mama. Our final scene of this episode is a short one, still with the song of Beware of Young Girls playing. We see Zayde and Grace enter Kappa House laughing and giggling, and the camera pans up in the foyer where we see the shadows of 4 women serving looks and silhouettes, and the camera turns and we see the 4 Chanels looking down at them menacingly. So we know that the next episode is going to be the Chanels trying to pin the Red Devil murders on Zayde and Grace, which honestly we love because Grace is trying to investigate who the killers are, but what happens if she's the killer? No one is safe from being a suspect or a victim. And that is the end of Scream Queen Season 1 Episode 7, titled Beware of Young Girls. I had a lot of thoughts about this episode. Like when I was first scripting it, I was really looking at the overall picture and thinking how it doesn't really fit into the plot of the show. It's kind of like a detour. You know, it's like this mystery within it that doesn't really have anything to do with the Red Devil. In fact, it's our first episode that doesn't have the Red Devil in it at all. And there's usually so much going on with so many characters, but we really just had 2 main storylines. We had the Chanel shenanigans and the Ouija board and all that, and then we had the Feather McCarthy and Dean Munch storyline. There was that random scene of Gigi and then Gigi and Grace, but I think that kind of led into the Kathy Munch and Feather McCarthy story. And I think it was also there to serve as a reminder that, remember, Gigi is bad. She's the ringleader of the Red Devils, because they didn't address that at all in the previous episode, even though it was revealed in the episode before that. It doesn't really make sense, you know, to have a cliffhanger like that and then not really address it for a couple episodes. But I digress because we're going to get into the whole Gigi situation a lot in the next episode. And the murder of Dr. Munch done by Dean Kathy Munch, who then framed Feather McCarthy, was such an interesting storyline because it was a murder mystery mystery that was self-contained within the episode. It wasn't really related to the Red Devil and it wasn't exactly solved, but it really showed us that Dean Kathy Munch is capable of horrible things. I mean, we already knew this by her covering up the mystery of the bathtub baby in 1995, but this further proves that she is up to nefarious things and makes her more of a suspect of the Red Devil, and honestly one of the prime suspects of who could be the Red Devil. And honestly, all of this to say, Dean Kathy Munch is a much better killer than the Red Devil. She eats, she slays, she does it with flair, and I respect that. And on top of that, I just love the storyline of the Chanels and all the shenanigans they got up to, and having it just be them and being silly and goofy, continuing that sleepover vibe with the Ouija boards and the prunex and whatnot. I really like this episode. It's a standout for me. Alrighty, it's 6 months later, but a few seconds later for you. Let's get into season 1, episode 8 of Scream Queens, titled Mommy Dearest. Try not to say mother challenge.
What's that thing you guys have been saying online? You're always just like, mother is mothering.
So this episode begins in Dean Munch's office where Grace is having a uncomfortable, lengthy staring contest with her. And Dean Munch is like, okay, I'm stumped. You're the one who scheduled this meeting. And Grace reminds Dean Munch that it's because she promised she would tell her what happened to the girl who died in the bathtub 20 years ago in Kappa and what happened to those babies. And Dean Munch is like, oh, did I? Which is hilarious because it was literally the night before.
I mean, look, I was probably high on Klonopin at the time, so you can't really hold me to anything I might have said.
Grace is always on her Nancy Drew-ish and wants to get to the bottom of this investigation, so she's very frustrated with Munch not taking things seriously, and she hasn't been this whole time. And Grace says, you know what, you're only going to taking these deaths seriously once you're attacked personally. I'm paraphrasing, the way she actually says it is really cringy. You're not going to take this seriously until it sneaks up behind you and
Stabs you in the heart.
Okay, Senorita Awesome, chill, relax. But lo and behold, Grace was right. Oh, can you see that? I have a laser, because I thought it would be really fun to have a laser pointer. So we go to Dean Munch's apartment, and she gets into the shower, but we see through the shower curtain the silhouette of the Red Devil holding a knife. But when the Red Devil pulls open the shower curtain, Dean Munch is not there. In fact, Dean Munch comes up behind the Red Devil and smacks him in the head, knocking him out against the bathtub. So she must have sneaked out on the other side of the shower curtain to get him. And she has a fun little line where she says, I saw that movie about 50 times. And the movie she's referencing is Psycho, the classic Alfred Hitchcock horror movie from the 1960s, in which Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Leigh, starred in. And of course, the shower scene is so iconic, and Jamie Lee said she never wanted to recreate it ever, but it just felt right for this role. So it was really fun to get to see her pay homage to her mother. Of course, we have Billie Lourd paying homage to her mother with her earmuffs because her mother played Princess Leia in Star Wars. So this episode really is encompassing mothers. Try not to say mother challenge.
We made it.
So anyways, Dean Munch goes to call 911. I don't know why she doesn't just run out of the apartment and then call 911. It's not the 50s anymore. You don't have to call your landline. But she's doing that and she gets stuck on a really long hold call. The same one that Zayday was stuck on when she got kidnapped at the haunted house.
911. There are dead people everywhere. Oh my God, please send help.
Sorry, that does sound awesome. Also note that 911 is for emergencies only.
This is not McDonald's.
If you need a ride to the store, please hang up.
And because it takes so long, the Red Devil has woken up, goes over to Dean Munch with a knife, and she hangs up and is like, okay, let's see what you got. And she's about to fight the Red Devil, but then another Red Devil comes out, because remember, we know there are 2 Red Devils. And she's like, 2 on 1? That doesn't seem fair. And then a third person comes out, and they're wearing a mask of, I have to get this name right, because I don't know American politics. They're wearing a mask of a Supreme Court Justice member named Anthony Scalia, who apparently was some asswipe of a conservative trying to strip minorities of their rights. Part for the call when it comes to the American Supreme Court and overall legislative system. So Dean Munch calms herself, she's getting ready to fight, and she says, when I was a junior, I spent a year abroad and I had an affair with a beautiful Eurasian man named Chun Wee Ha. He was a grand champion in the illegal Hong Kong fighting pits, bloody sport they called it. I taught him everything I knew about lovemaking, and in return, he taught me how to fight. So this explains why she's such a good fighter, which is good because she got some serious karate skills. Side note though, I don't know why the Red Devils are letting her have a full-on speech, like just attack her. But alas, she goes in for the strike and beats all 3 of them up seamlessly. She does some serious Karate Kid-ish. And they're all on the ground, shaking their heads, they're in so much pain, but she's ready for round 2. Girlie's ready to fight. Try not to say mother challenge.
Look around, everybody on me. Look around, it's me and my crew.
And because of this, the 2 Red Devils and the other person wearing the Anthony Scalia face costume, they just quietly see themselves out. So, looks like Grace was right, and Dean Munch was attacked. Should that put suspicion on Grace, though? Did she put a target on her? Who's to say? Oh my god, guys, my little pointer has a torch too. This thing is so cool. Oh my god. That is $6 on Amazon, well spent. Sadly, you know, F Jeff Bezos and all that. Anyways, over at Kappa House, Chanel walks into the living room and says to her minions,
I hope you fat heifers did your homework.
Zayday is the killer, and that walking jawline Grace What's-Her-Nuts is in on it. Which I'm so obsessed with her calling Grace a walking jawline, because girlie could cut glass with that jawline for real. I just love such specific insults that aren't really mean, but they're just like hyper-specific, honing in on certain aspects of a person in a TV show, not real life. Be kind to each other. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with this. Do we like the laser or do we like the torch? Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked by my new toy. Chanel goes on saying, all this started when those two walked into this house. I need them convicted, fried in the electric chair, and I want it now. I need to find out what you got. So first, Hester, aka Chanel number 6, gives her intel and says while snooping through Zayday's things, she found out she's on the pill. And Chanel's like, that's not evidence. And Hester's like, well, wait a minute, because I found out that Grace is on the pill too. And get this, their cycles are synced. And you know what else is synced? Their thirst for murder.
When you know what they say, those who pill together, kill together.
And honestly, we really gotta commend Hester, aka Chanel number 6, for thinking outside of the box here. However, Chanel is not impressed, so we go to our next theory, which is from Chanel number 5, who says that she knows for a fact that Zayday is the murderer, because if you rearrange the letters in her name, Zayday Williams, you get, I may slay Liz Dorr. Chanel's confused, like, who the hell is that? And Chanel number 5 is like, I don't know.
But clearly Zayday is contemplating slaying her.
I love this. It's so stupid. It's so good. She's so genuinely concerned. She's like, we have to find this Liz Dorr. She clearly is Zayday's next victim. We have to save her. I'm cracking the fuck up at their investigative work. Chanel is so pissed off with all these clues and says she's just gonna have to do what her daddy does. Throw money at the problem. Ugh, the upper 1%. We then go to the kitchen where Chanel number 3 finds Denise Hempfield frying some food and asks what the hell she's doing there. And Denise tells her, oh, you didn't know? I moved in.
I live with you dumb hoes now.
We then see a flashback of Denise talking to Dean Munch, saying Denise Hempfield ain't gonna spend another night sleeping in the Secure Enforcement Solutions patrol car and giving herself a horse bath every morning with a handful of wet naps when there's a perfectly good bedroom upstairs that nobody is using just because some dumb hoe got murdered in it. I don't know why, I just love that she keeps calling them dumb hoes. And I also love how she always talks about herself in the third person. I love Denise. Munch really doesn't gaff about the Kappas, so she's like, yeah, sure, whatever, move in, be my guest. Back in presentation on number 3, is like to Denise, no, I meant, what are you doing using that deep fryer? And Denise is like, making some mozzarella sticks. They're delicious and nutritious. Don't know about that, but I do love a mozzarella stick. And Chanel number 3 is like, you know somebody got their face fried off in that, obviously referencing the late Agatha Bean. May she rest in peace.
Miss Bean, let's hit it! Miss Bean, I said let's hit it! Oh my god, who turned the fryer on?
Nobody changed the oil?
I doubt it.
And Chanel number 3 is like, we don't really eat around here. I question why this house even has a kitchen. Anyway, how much money would it take for you to figure out who the killer is? So she's pivoting. She's trying to get Denise in on this. I don't know why, considering Denise has proved herself to be a terrible detective. And she's like, think about the most money you can think of. And Denise is like, $1 million. And Chanel number 3 is like, that's seriously the biggest number you can think of? And Denise is like, you're right, $3 million. And Chanel's like, okay, whatever. I need you to find proof that Zayday Williams or Grace Gardner is the killer. And of course, Denise has had it out for Zayday all along.
You trying to raise money?
More like raise the body count with murder.
So this is easy cash for her if she can find evidence.
What are you doing?
I'm stopping a killer. That's what I'm doing.
Back in Dean Munch's office, she's brought Grace back, who's feeling very smug about how Dean Munch got attacked by the Red Devil. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, we need to put an attacked symbol on Dean Munch because she has officially been attacked by the Red Devil. So we know from flashbacks and when Grace and Pete went and talked to one of the girls, Mandy Greenwald, who was at the bathtub incident at the Kappa party 20 years ago where the girl died, that Dean Munch was a part of the cover-up. But they don't know that for a fact. It's hearsay. So of course Dean Munch wants to protect her ass, so she says, let me lay this out for you hypothetically. In this state, there's no statute of limitations for homicide. Now hypothetically, if I was at Kappa that night and I did hypothetically cover up this hypothetical negligent homicide, I would hypothetically not be responsible for that girl's death, but I would hypothetically undoubtedly be an accessory after the fact. So when these murders started up again, even if I hypothetically thought they were related to the events of 20 years ago, I couldn't hypothetically start offering up information to the hypothetical police or anyone else for that matter, because I risk hypothetically implicating myself.
Hypothetically, of course.
I do not do Jamie Lee Curtis justice on how she read that line delivery. The way she gave every hypothetical its oomph.
Hypothetical, hypothetically, hypothetically, hypothetical, hypothetically, 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 of course.
She's so me-coded whenever I used to make drama videos and I would say allegedly every 2 seconds to avoid myself getting sued. As if Jeffree Star wants to sue your ass. He don't know who you are. Grace says, so instead, you let the Red Devil go around killing people, your students, just to protect yourself. Well, yeah, true. And Munch says, I just figured that eventually someone would shoot the bastard. And Grace spells it out for her like, oh, so now it's different because the Red Devil's come after you. Well, duh, that's why she's gonna be a final girl. Munch says, yeah, the hell it is. This school could survive a few serial killings, but I don't really think that this university can handle losing me. She hands Grace a file and says, this is the name of the girl who died in the bathtub. Grace with her fuck-ass newsy hat says, but that's not enough. I need to know everything. What happened to the babies? Where were the other girls who were there? And Munch says, I don't know, okay? Cover-ups like this only work if everybody has tiny little bits of information. One of the girls took the baby. I don't know where she went. What happened after that? This name is all I have. The rest, as they say, Sherlock, is up to you. Grace opens the file to see the name Sophia Doyle. So that is the name confirmed of the woman who died giving birth to the baby in the bathtub at the kappa party. And she's like, this can't be right. My mother's name was Mary Mulligan. Because if we forget, Grace, because she's so incredibly self-centered, has somehow made this entire thing about herself and convinced herself that her mother's the one who died in the bathtub, so she has some bigger purpose.
Whose bloody clothes are those? Like 20 or so years ago, a girl died in this tub. She had a baby during a party, and the sisters let her bleed out because they were having so much fun.
How come we never talk about Mom?
It's hard for me to talk about sometimes. I miss her a lot.
It's pretty convenient that she died in a fire. Why did this all start happening as soon as I got to campus?
She's got severe main character syndrome and a severe case of an inflated ego, but I do think that's kind of the point of her character. The show, after all, is a satire, so we can't take it too seriously. But Munch really gives it to Grace and says, do you know what I find most appalling about you? You act like you're this benevolent champion of justice, when really, at the end of the day, this is just about you finding out who your mommy is. Oh, I fear she cooked her. I fear she cooked you, Grace. Because Grace, you were a disgrace. Grace stands up and yells like a little toddler stomping her foot, saying, I want to stop these murders, but I also have a right to find out if I'm the reason that they're happening. Yeah, girl, whatever makes you feel better about being selfish. And Munch gives her a little tidbit of advice and says, do you want to know why I don't do therapy? Because the less we know about ourselves, the better. Rummaging around through your life is like digging through a landfill. Sure, you might happen upon something interesting, but you're gonna get filthy. Not the best message or takeaway, but it does align with her character after all, and therapy isn't for everyone. Maybe that's not a part of her journey. Anyways, it really is an interesting scene because I feel like Dean Munch is the only character who can really get under Grace's skin to like a deep core because she sees through all the bullshit. We then go over to Kappa House where Jennifer, aka Candle Vlogger, dumps a huge haul of candles out on her bed and starts freaking out. She's like, no, crap, I'm gonna kill that dumb bitch. Denise Hempfield comes around the corner into the doorway and says, whoa, what dumb bitch are you gonna kill? Love how she's just lurking in the shadows, eavesdropping on everyone. That's a true reporter. Jennifer says the girl at Candle Junction who evidently doesn't understand the concept of a 22 for the price of 20 sale. So I'm like, okay, well, my year is ruined. Okay, girly, it's just candles. By the way, guys, I recently found out that candles are like carcinogenic and they're actually really bad to breathe in. So look that up. I don't use candles anymore. Denise says she wants to ask Jennifer some questions about Zayday, and Jennifer promptly says, Zayday's not the killer. And Denise is like, damn, what made you say that so fast? And Jennifer says, total lack of evidence. She displays none of the characteristics of a serial killer. She's kind, responsible, she has a great set of social skills and a healthy network of friends. I have no reason to believe she's the killer. Okay, girly, well, who are you? You're not a detective. Neither is Denise Hempfield, really, though, so. Denise says, I've got 3 million reasons to believe she's the killer. And Jennifer's like, well, there was that one time. I was struggling to fit in with the girls at Kappa House, and Zayday told me this story. And we go in a flashback where Zayday is trying to make Jennifer feel better and basically tells her a story about these horrible girls at her high school called the Peacocks. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a parody of the Plastics from Mean Girls, but basically she says that they just like walked around all day wearing like peacock feathers, and they told her to like come join her group and like wear her fanciest outfit. So she does the next day, and they just make fun of her outfits, and Zayday just sits at the table and laughs along to like not seem upset, but she was like super upset. And she says, it was that day I decided I was gonna figure out a way to get revenge on entitled little rich girls everywhere. And not just little revenge, real revenge. And in present day, Denise is like, she said that? Real revenge? And Jennifer is like, yeah, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I guess maybe she could be the... And then Jennifer gets interrupted because Zayday walks out of their adjoining bathroom and says, could be what? A serial killer? You know what? Maybe next time you should check the bathroom before you decide personal stories about your sweet mate, because I heard everything you said. As for you, Miss Hempfield, I'm getting real tired of your nonsense. You make me wish I was a serial killer just so I could knock your ass off next. If you want to accuse me of something, walk your ass down to the police station and get yourself a warrant. Until then, you better stay away from me. You hear? That goes for both of you. And she leaves. And honestly, good for Zayday standing her ground. Denise has had it out for her from the get-go. Before she was even getting offered $3 million, she's had it out for her, and she's been trying to pin this all on her when there's literally no evidence.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. Denise Hempfield is going to find Zayday Williams, and then I'm going to throw her in the slammer for murder in the first.
And Zayday clocked her ass back in episode 5, saying that she feels like Denise is just jealous of Zayday because when she tried to pledge Kappa, they were like racist to her and they wouldn't let her into the sorority.
You're just gonna have to see me take it one step further by becoming the first black president of Kappa House. And that's just gonna chap your hide. Make you wanna kill, huh?
And now that Zayday can be there, she's like jealous and stuff, and she should just like empower fellow black women instead of tearing her down. And honestly, I agree. Respect. Denise, point that finger somewhere else. I'm telling you, there'd be a lot more evidence for Grace being the killer. I don't know why number 3 didn't tell her to try and figure out if Grace was the killer when she's one of the 2 options that Chanel wants to pin it on. Later that night, Jennifer's recording a video for her candle review YouTube channel, and she says, anyways, so I went back to the Candle Junction at the Three Hills Mall, and the girl was like, sorry, we did have Mrs. Claus's Cinnabon brown eye in the back. It was just hidden behind a whole bunch of stuff because it's seasonal. Seasonal? You kidding me? Anyways, she's very much giving that candle vlogger AZ4 Angela on YouTube, who made a rant about like 10 years ago about Bath and Body Works in Wisconsin when they gave her the wrong candle. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been running back and forth dealing with bitches all day.
This is the only good thing that happened. I think the Packers won. I don't know. I've been busy taking care of bitches all fucking day. There's barely anybody in the frickin' store. And I said, a live person? Who the do you think I'm talking to now? I want to leave this store. Give me my candles now. Meaning my peach bellinis.
I love that video. So Jennifer goes on giving her candle review when she hears a door creaking, and she just yells up to her Kappa sisters like, guys, I'm filming. Anyway, so this one's got like a really rich aroma, and it's got the 3 wigs, blah, 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 candle talk. Sorry, candle stands, I'm skipping all that. What she doesn't realize is that Creek was actually the Red Devil who's walking up behind her and stabs her in the back of the neck. So R.I.P. to Jennifer, aka Candle Vlogger. Unfortunately, you won't be missed. Kind of a boring character. So over in Chanel's room, the other Chanels are there, and Denise is giving them an update on her investigation on Zayday, saying she hasn't really been able to come up with anything because she's seriously lacking the financial resources department and was wondering if she could just get a little advance on that $3 million. Say 10%, 300,000. Of course, that's nothing to Chanel, so she gets up and is like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, I've got to go. I've got a riveting compliment night with Chad. They're like, what's that? And she's like, we sit across from each other and give each other 100 compliments? Like, duh. We see a flashback of their last compliment date in the candlelit Kappa living room, and Chad says to Chanel, you got a hot mouth. That mouth would look even better if it was kissing all over my rippling pecs and rock hard abs. And Chanel's like, Chad, you just complimented yourself. And he's like, okay, that outfit looks super hot. And she's like, thanks. And Chad's like, that outfit looks like it'd be super absorbent enough to wipe down this hot bod after an hour-long bone sesh.
These aren't compliments, Chad!
I'm trying, okay?
And back in present day, Chanel's like, compliment night's been a work in progress. Because as we know, Chad is a narcissist and a sex addict. The Chanels and Denise are then following Chanel as she walks down the stairs, and Denise is like, how am I gonna get that money? And Chanel's like, I don't know, I just lost my daddy's assistant and wire you the money. And she's then like, do you guys smell that? I smell burning. They all run downstairs to the dining room where they find Jennifer, aka Candle Vlogger, sitting on the dining table, dead, in like a cross-legged position with candle melted all over her. Very much seeming like a reference to the 2005 film House of Wax. And we get a classic good old-fashioned scream from these queens. We then go over to the Grind coffee shop where Pete is helping Grace look for any information on the bathtub baby lady Sophie Doyle, but he hasn't been able to find anything, saying there's literally nothing. And Grace is whining and having a little tantrum, saying, no, this can't be another dead end. We have her name. There has to be a photo of her online or a relative or something. We have to find anything. That's my mom. I know it is. I can just feel it. Ever since this all started, I've known that I was the baby in the bathtub. And girl, that's literally insane. You have no evidence to suggest that. Just because your mother died and was in Kappa does not mean that that is the case. I can't listen, you're really awesome. It's like painful to watch her at times.
Name?
Senorita Awesome.
And that's not even it. She goes on and says, when I was little, I would talk to her and I could just feel her there with me, a benevolent spirit. But there was also a sadness there, a longing, some unfinished business that was keeping her from moving on. That's why I came to this school and joined Kappa, because I had this feeling that I just could finish it for her. That is the business. We need to find my mom and end all of this. Dear, strange, odd candle vlogger Jennifer has to be the last victim of the Red Devil killer. The madness has to end. Okay, whatever, girl. Very much giving, 'cause I'm not a bad bitch. And this isn't savage.
Well, clearly you haven't discovered the many layers of Senorita Awesome.
Every oldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter. So we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire.
Senorita Awesome, wait up.
So Pete brainstorms and digs deeper and says, okay, so the name is step one. Maybe we need another step or two before it becomes helpful. The Hag of Shady Lane, we figured out that she must have been a girl who took the baby that night and tried to take care of it. But after a couple years, she disappeared, right? She was a hag. She dumpster dived for food and robbed milk trucks for a living. How far could a crazy woman like that have gotten? So this leads them to thinking that she might have been locked up in the insane asylum that Dean Munch was in, because they assume that just because she's haggish and she steals her food that she's insane? Don't disrespect a mother like that. So they go back to the insane asylum when they don't even know anyone who's currently in there, and somehow they're allowed to go in. But I digress. They go over and talk to the woman in the last episode. You know, the one who paints all the patients. I paint them all.
I paint them all. I paint them all.
And they ask her if she remembers a girl who was in there 20 years ago, the Hag of Shady Lane, who wailed a lot and had a baby with her. Without even having to look that much, even though it's a painting from 20 years ago, the patient grabs a painting, shows it to them, and who is on the painting but none other than Gigi. And now they know this. We had already known this episodes ago. So you guys are just a tad behind, not exactly the reveal you think it is. They're about to leave because they think they've gotten what they needed, but then the woman shows them another painting, not sure why she painted two separate paintings, because one is of Gigi and then one is of Gigi holding two babies, one in a pink swaddle, one in a blue, suggesting that there was not just one girl baby, but there was two babies, a boy baby and a girl baby. So could that be who the two Red Devil killers are? Well, one would deduce. Anyway, we then go over to the campus quad. It's nighttime and they're holding a candlelight vigil for Jennifer, aka Candle Vlogger, and Munch gives a speech to the press saying, good evening. It's with a heavy heart that after these continued deaths on campus and the mounting evidence that there is in fact a serial killer. Girl, it took you now to decide that. How many people have died? Let's just clock this T. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of your students have died, and only now you're declaring this. Anyway, I digress. Dean Munch goes on and says, I regret to announce the suspension of all operations here at Wallace University, effective immediately. This evening at 8 p.m. out on the main quad under a peaceful oak tree, there'll be a moment of silence for Jennifer, or as she was more popularly known, that very unusual girl with the really odd candle fetish. Then Eternal Flame starts playing as the Chanels lead a candlelight vigil for Jennifer, which is what she would have wanted. Give me your hand, darling. Do you feel my heart beating? Do you understand? Do you feel the same? Am I only dreaming? Is this burning an eternal flame? Very much giving Fire Hazard and or Cult Meeting. Munch ends off her speech saying, congratulations, Red Devil Killer. You have won. I have no further comment on the matter. And she leaves and all the press clamor. Back at Kappa House, we see that Chanel was watching this live broadcast about how Wallace University campus is closing on her laptop. She shuts it down, fuming, and says, this is an outrage. My whole life is ruined. Kappa House is officially done, which means we can't throw any more awesome parties where people almost die or actually die, which means I can't be popular and Chad Radwell is going to leave me. You have to fix this. You have to prove that Zayday and that pencil-necked Grace are the killers and do it fast. We then see who she's talking to, and it is two detectives, and one of them says, you do realize that we're detectives from Scotland, right? Therefore, we have no jurisdiction in the United States. Mrs. Oberlin, you have to understand, the only reason we're here is because we were told that you had information regarding a death threat against the Duchess of Cambridge. But Chanel don't gaff. She says, first of all,
I'm an American. I don't don't have to understand anything.
And furthermore, I do have information regarding a death against the Duchess of Cambridge. If you don't prove that Zayday and Grace are the killers, I'm gonna kill the Duchess myself. Girl, not a threat on the royalty. Not Chanel committing international terrorism and treason. Also, why she chose these detectives from Scotland is beyond me, but I digress. I can't think of a logical reason, and logic defies this show, so what am I really doing? I think this is really just a joke at like American entitlement. Not that all Americans are entitled, but a decent few are. Mainly those who wear red hats and vote for that orange man. Anyway, Chanel goes on and says to the detectives, see, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm rich. Stupid rich. And I'm prepared to pay handsomely to get what I want. And what I want is to see Zayday and that talking bowling ball on a stick, Grace, rotting in prison for the rest of their lives. I'm sorry, these insults against Grace, what do we have? We had walking jawline, pencil-necked Grace, and now that bowling ball on a stick. I don't know who wrote this episode, but they clearly had something against this actress because they're coming for her neck. Namely, how her neck is not proportional to her big-ass head. But I think she's beautiful. No tea, no shade, Skylar. We all have our thing. I have a big-ass head. I can barely fit in a regular-sized hat. Anyway, Chanel goes on and says,
I don't care what you toothless inbreds have to do to make that happen.
just make it happen. Now, do we have a deal? Obviously an insult to people of the UK and their teeth issues. We're making a lot of stereotypes in this episode. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. The next day in Kappa House in the kitchen, Grace finds Gigi preparing a meal because she's like the Kappa lawyer. I'm not sure why she's there cooking them food. But anyway, she calls out Gigi saying, you're a liar and I want the truth about everything. Then we're gonna go to my dad together and you're gonna confess it all to him too. She places the painting down on the counter and Gigi's like, am I supposed to know who that is? And Grace is like, it's you. And Gigi's like, oh, that's kind of weird. It does kind of look like me. But what's with the two babies? You trying to hint that you want me and your dad to have babies? Because that's so sweet. She's playing naive really well, but Grace isn't having it and says it was painted 20 years ago by a woman in the Palmer Insane Asylum. She remembers you being there with two babies. Gigi goes down the patronizing route and says, honey,
have you been smoking ayahuasca? Because past the duchy on the left-hand side, sister,
I want whatever you're smoking. She's kind of eating her up a little bit. But Grace says, I know this picture isn't proof of anything, which is why I went looking for more. I called the Kappa National Chapter, and according to the enrollment files at the time, you were a student here at Welsh University, but you dropped out after your sophomore year for medical reasons. So coupled up with this painting, it adds up that she went a bit nuts because she was somehow involved in the death of the fellow students. Gigi says this is pretty flimsy evidence to accuse her of a murder, but Grace says it's enough to keep her away from her dad. And Gigi digs a little deeper and says, look, hun, I know you've never had a mom before. Someone who could talk to you gal to gal, show you what's what. If you did, she would explain to you that all the pressures that you've been under the past few weeks, plus the fact that your dad's finally dating, has you feeling a little bit unmoored. It's all happening too fast, and you've just been looking on to hold on to the one thing in life that makes you feel safe, like a child again, your dad. And now you're trying to get rid of both stresses with one slice of a knife, so to speak, she says as she's holding a knife from when she was chopping vegetables. And she goes on and says, because if I'm the killer, then the murders stop and you get your dad back. Grace starts getting emotional and says, I don't think that's going to be my dad's take on all this. And Gigi drops a bomb and says, oh, I think my fiance trusts me. And Grace is shook by this, like, fiance? And Gigi's like, oh, I didn't tell you? Yeah, popped the question the other night. And she shows the tiniest little diamond ring ever like this. It's very much giving Belly from The Summer I Turned Pretty. Grace is crying now and tells Gigi to stay away from her dad. And Gigi's like,
or what? You gonna kill me?
And honestly, you gotta hand it to her. Gigi handled that convo like a boss. I pay the check before it hits the mahogany gray. Later on, we catch up with Chanel, who's catching up with the Scottish detectives, who say, well, Mrs. Oberlin, we've concluded our investigation, and we've turned up some very interesting facts indeed. Someone has, in fact, contemplating killing you, if not attempted outright. Your very housemate, Libby Putney.
Libby Putney.
And Chanel's like, who the hell is that? And the Scottish detectives are like, you may know her as Chanel number 5. And Chanel bursts out laughing like, Chanel number 5's real name is Libby Putney. Which is so funny because it's a funny name.
Libby Putney?
But also because she has no idea what any of the minions' names even are. But anyway, the detectives go on saying Libby Putney, aka Chanel number 5, is a frequent visitor to active chat rooms with names such as, does anyone want to help me poison Chanel Oberlin? Okay, very on the nose. Chanel stops them and says, hey, stupid foreign idiots, I didn't ask you to dig up dirt on Chanel number 5, because duh, she's been knowing number 5 hates her ass. The detectives are confused, saying, yeah, but she's clearly intent on killing you. And Chanel retorts and says, I don't care. What I asked is for you to prove that Grace and Zayday are the killers. And the detectives say, well, with regards to Miss Williams, there is no evidence whatsoever she's been involved in campus murders, or indeed any illegal activity. And they go on and say, the same can be said for Grace Gardner. There's no history of suspicion suspicious or criminal activity. The same, however, cannot be said for her mother. This intrigues Chanel, and they hand Chanel the file. She opens it and chuckles and says, "I knew it. Looks like the bitch apple doesn't fall far from the bitch tree."
Thank you, gentlemen. Grace is the killer, and this file proves it.
I know the apple's rotten right to the core from all the things that fallen down from apples coming before. I saw the apple come from symmetrical line. It's kind of scary, makes me just want to die. Grayson gets to her father's apartment as he gets off the phone with Gigi. Grace is super upset, asking how he could have got engaged to Gigi without talking to her first. And he says he's confused on how it even happened. And we see a flashback of Gigi and Wes sitting on the couch. And Gigi asks him if she can buy some stuff for his place, because you know it leaves a little bit of a woman's touch. But she doesn't want him to think that they're moving too fast or that she's trying to cramp his bachelor lifestyle. And Wes is like, "Oh no, come on, just get whatever you want." And obviously she really goes with that, because in present day Wes says, yeah, she just came back with a ring, and I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I just played along with it. You know, I thought it might lead to some mind-blowing sex, which it did. And Grace is like, Dad, ew, whatever, you can't marry her. And he's like, who said anything about marrying her? I'm just gonna wait till it chills out a bit. And Grace is like, you can't.
Gigi is crazy.
No, she's quirky.
Crazy ex-girlfriend, quirky-ish. He promises Grace that he won't get too serious without talking to her about it first, because she's always going to be his number one. And Grace is like, how am I supposed to believe that when everything we've had together has been built on a lie? And Wes isn't understanding her point and just goes on and says, I know it must be hard for you to see me with someone else, but it's been 16 years, Gracie. Don't I deserve a little happiness too? And Grace has a moment of realization and says, wait, Gigi must have known Mom. Which means you must have known Gigi, which means she doesn't finish her sentence, but she's getting real crazy and she's walking back, and Wes is walking towards her acting really creepy and is like, what? Do you think I have something to do with these murders, Grace? You're making yourself crazy. And Grace tells him to stay away from her, grabs her stuff and runs out, and we see Wes looking at himself real creepy in the mirror. Everyone's suspicious. Later on, Grace storms into Kappa House, and Chanel is sitting in the living room waiting for her and says, why, hello, Grace. Why don't you have a seat? We need to discuss the manner in which you intend to turn yourself into the authorities. Grace sits down and hears her out, and Chanel says, you look all sweet and cuddly, but I know for a fact that you're the killer. Deep down, you're a ruthless criminal. Just like your mother. Grace is confused, but Chanel hands her the file and says, here are the facts. Your mother was elected Kappa House president in 1995 on a campaign platform that largely consisted of a pledge to make Waterfalls by TLC the official Kappa song. We go to a flashback in 1995 to confirm that Grace's real mother is none other than Mary Mulligan, the woman from 1995 who told them all to leave the girl giving birth in the bathtub behind so that they could go and enjoy Waterfalls.
We can't just leave her. We'll be back after this song. Give the baby some mojito to quiet it down.
And she's essentially the reason that the girl died, because they didn't help her, call 911.
What the hell? She's dead.
Death by neglect. Manslaughter? Womanslaughter? Mother slaughter. Alrighty, so I just went ahead and added a blue line from Grace to Mary Mulligan to indicate that she is related to her, and then a green line from Wes to Mary Mulligan to indicate they've had romantic encounters. Confirmed by Chanel, saying she really had a whale of a time that night because she ended up hooking up with one of the douchebags at the party, a douchebag by the name of Wes Gardner. And we go to the flashback and see Wes, played by the same actor. They did the same thing with Denise. Like, why can't they hire someone who looks like them? These are like 40-year-old actors supposed to be playing an 18-year-old. Like, it's just so goofy. But anyway, I digress. I guess the show doesn't take itself that seriously. Chanel goes on and says, I'm not sure if it's that night that she got herself knocked up or a couple days later, but almost exactly 9 months later, you were born. Grace is crying, saying it can't be possible. But Chanel goes on and says, you always suspected that you were the baby in the bathtub, didn't you? But it didn't quite add up, did it? Your mother changed her name from Bethany Stevens to Mary Mulligan in a feeble attempt to put the sins of her youth behind her. But I guess popping you out drove her off the deep end, because that's when her criminal record gets really interesting. She was arrested for shoplifting, petty larceny, grand larceny, drunk driving with a baby on her lap, drunk driving with a baby on the top of her car, and possessions of methamphetamine with an intent to distribute. Damn, that's quite the list. Anyway, she goes on saying, obviously appalled, your douchebag of a father sued for custody and won, and then your saint of a mother died a year later. She was drunk driving, obviously, decided to wrap her car around a tree. Damn, Chanel is not gentle with it. And Grace doesn't want to believe this because she's still holding on to that fairy tale story her father told her and says, that's a lie. My mother died in a fire.
Fiery car crash He probably wanted to spare you the pain of finding out who your skank mom really was.
See, do you want to know my theory? You thought that you were the baby in the bathtub, so you decided to come to Kappa Kappa Tau and kill everybody. Well, guess what, Grace? You're not the baby. So you can stop murdering everybody and accept the fact that your dumb dead mother was nothing more than a drunk degenerate slut. Oh, so savage. Read her for filth, but in a way I can't even applaud because it's just so mean. Now, obviously, Chanel telling Grace all of this was extremely savage, but she wanted to know the truth about her mother, so be careful what you wish for. Like, at the same time, Girlie also needed to be humbled. She needed a reality check real quick. Sure, it came in a savage form, but she got the truth. Anyway, later on in the dining room, Hester, aka Chanel number 6, and Chanel number 5, and number 3, and Zayde are sitting at the dining room table while Denise hands them a bunch of flyers saying they're gonna go pick up trash off the highway, then go read the newspaper to blind dogs at the pound because it's about time the sorority started giving back. Number 5 protests against this, and Denise says things are gonna change around Kappa House now that Denise Hempfield is in charge. Number 3 asks Denise since when is she in charge, and Denise says, since I weaseled my way into living into this house. Number 5 then notices something about Denise as she is wearing an outfit that she never wears. She always wears a uniform, but for once she's wearing something different, a bit frilly, a bit puffy, very Chanel-esque. Number 5's like, wait, are those my clothes? And Denise says the bigger question is, why are you the same size as a 40-year-old woman? And you know what? I don't know what brand this G-string is, but I feel like angels are flossing my butt crack. So she's literally not only wearing Chanel number 5's clothes and body shaming her, but she's also wearing her G-string. Damn, she's really making herself at home. Number 5 goes off at Denise saying this is insane. She has no right to root through their possessions and steal their things. But Denise says, shut up and sit down. I'm house mother. And as house mother, I can do whatever I want. So she just gave herself this position. And at this point, Chanel's walked in and is like, what the hell are you talking about?
Chanel, it's a coup.
Number 5 is whining. Like, Chanel, she's wearing my clothes. She's wearing my underwear. But Chanel's like, oh, shut up, number 5. Your underwear is probably relieved to be touching actual human genitals. Of course, referencing number 5's vaginal teeth. And Chanel says to Denise, I don't know what you're attempting here, but I call the shots. I'm house president. And Zayde reminds her, we're co-presidents, which honestly, what was the point of them even doing that? Like, Zayde hasn't done anything since she's been elected. She never asserts her power. Like, they might as well not even have done that, but I digress. Denise tells Chanel, Mama Denise is in charge now. We're gonna step into the nearest bathroom and have a nice little heart-to-heart, just you and me. Get. So they go to the bathroom and Denise tells Chanel that she heard the mean things she told Grace about her mother, but Chanel's like, I just said the fact. And Denise says, that don't matter. You can't go around insulting someone's mama, even if she is the worst bitch in the world. And she wants Chanel to apologize. Obviously, Chanel doesn't want to.
Over my rich, hot, dead body.
But Denise says if Chanel doesn't apologize, then she'll just place a booty call to Chad Radwell and make him her full-time man. Chanel's shook by this because she didn't know about yet another one of Chad's affairs. And Denise says, yeah, that's right. In the past, Chad and I have enjoyed our sexy roleplay storytime sessions, and I wouldn't mind making them a little more frequent. That's right, Chanel. You're gonna say you're sorry to Grace and start changing the way you're treating these ladies at Kappa House.
Or Mama Denise will take your man.
Fine.
Damn, she runs a tight ship, but at the same time, her methods may be insane, but overall, Denise is making a positive impact. She's creating a sisterhood and camaraderie, making people apologize for their wrongs, getting them to read the newspaper to blind dogs at the pound. Overall, a positive impact. Speak of the devil, Grace goes to her father's apartment to find out if the stuff Chanel told her about her mom is the truth, and Wes basically says that it mostly is, and he was going to tell Grace the truth eventually, but she just got so attached to the fake story he didn't want to upset her. I mean, sure, why not let your daughter live in delusion for the rest of her life? Grace is like, so our house never burnt down? And Wes says, yes, it did, but that's because I burnt it down to erase any evidence of your mother. Okay. So we're just committing arson casually. Wes goes on saying, I did this all to protect you. Don't you see why I didn't want you to join Kappa now? You're the best of both me and your mom, and Kappa was the worst of her. And Wes says, all I ever wanted was for you to have a wonderful life. I worked my ass off for that, and I'm sorry that included me lying to you. And Grace says, Mom was there that night at the party, so were you. And you knew all along, and people were getting killed, and you never told me?
I was trying to protect you.
But now you see that you can't.
Oh my god, you can't pay me to care about this drama. Grace says the needle drop of a line. You can't protect me from who I really am. I am my mother's daughter, Dad.
What does that mean?
Don't fuck with my freedom. I came up to get me some. I'm nasty, I'm evil. Must be something in the water. Oh, cause I'm my mother's daughter. So back up, back up, back up, back up.
It means I would stay far away from me if you want to protect yourself.
back up, back up, back up, back up, boy. Ooh, must be something in the water. Oh, 'cause I'm my mother's daughter. Ooh. Grace then leaves, and after a moment, Gigi comes into the apartment and says, babe, are you okay? I just saw Grace running out. He's clearly not okay, and Gigi says, Weston, can we talk honestly? That girl has slowly been falling apart ever since she got here. Yeah, a serial killer on campus will probably do that to you, and also finding out that your life is a lie. Not me being a Grace defender all of a sudden. Anyway, Gigi goes on saying, I know college kids have a lot of pressure, but I really do think Gracie has the superwoman complex, you know? And her inability to keep her friends from being picked off one by one like little Indians is throwing her dangerously off course. Yeah, next couple episodes there's a lot of weird remarks towards Native Americans. Not sure if it's to like imply the ignorance that some Americans have, or if Ryan Murphy's got a different agenda. You let me know. Anyway, Gigi goes on saying that Grace has a 1.4 GPA. She's failing out of school. And she says to Wes, if you don't take some serious, real action, and I mean like real action, like maybe even having her like committed or something, then you're really failing her as a father. Gigi on her manipulative-ish. She's trying to get rid of Grace because Grace is too close to being onto her. She's sniffing that trail. We then go back to the Grind coffee shop where Chanel brings a coffee over to Grace, and Grace swaps the coffee's like, oh my god, did she poison the coffee? Did she spit in it? And Chanel's like, is that how little you trust me? And then Grace pushes the coffee towards Chanel, having neither of them. And she's like, no, that's how little I trust you. Now, why the hell did you ask me to come here? And Chanel says, I came here to apologize. Ambushing you with all that stuff about your mom was mean, even by my standards. You see, I had an awful mother too. Even worse than yours.
Happy Oberlin is a monster.
Her mother's name is Happy Oberlin? Okay. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My oldest brother, Harvard Oberlin, was born with Harvard Oberlin. Like Stanford, Harvard Oberlin. Like, that's so funny. Yale Oberlin. Yale Oberlin. Anyway. My oldest brother, Harvard Oberlin, was born with cradle cap. She disowned him the moment she saw him. If you don't know what that is, that's when babies are born with like dry shit on their scalp and you're like not supposed to pick it off, but it's really hard not to. I had younger siblings and I always wanted to pick that shit off, but I didn't. Anyway, she goes on saying, my sister Muffet became the family's greatest shame when she joined the Peace Corps. Yuck. Isn't that when people like do volunteer work to help people? That's like a good thing, but I guess in the Oberlin's eyes it was a bad thing. And then Chanel continues saying, then I burst onto the scene. I was mommy's perfect little angel. Mommy said I was a prodigy at firing nannies and top of my class at destroying people's self-confidence. Although they don't give out grades for that for some dumb reason. And then we see little Chanel walking out, serving Avi. And we then see another flashback of teenage Chanel crying in the bathroom in a cap and gown. And her narration says, the worst was when she didn't let me go to my high school graduation because I had a bad zit. She said my deformity would embarrass the family. Back in present day, Grace says she does sound really awful. And Chanel says, but don't you see, we all have mommy issues. They say that if a woman doesn't have a healthy attachment to her mother, she'll never feel safe in the world. That's why I joined a sorority, to create a space that could fill the void my mother carved out of me. I mean, Kappa's like the mom we all never had. What a beautiful little sentiment, but I know you're full of shit, Chanel. I know you don't believe that. Also, I relate. I've got mommy issues, so it's real out here. It's also insane because, like, the sisterhood, what is the sisterhood? You literally torment your sisters. Lest we forget in that hazing week, all the shit she did to them. If you haven't, go see the previous vids. Chanel excuses this by saying, I'm a work in progress, okay? Maybe I have to get all this bitch out of me before I can be the real me. I mean, maybe the reason we're in each other's lives is to deal with our mom stuff. You by pretending to be nice and innocent so I can see what a bitch I am, and me by telling you about your real mom and how heroically awful she was. I think you can admit that you're better off now that I told you. What a backhanded apology, but at the same time, you wanted the truth. Be careful what you wish for. And literally Dean Munch warned you of that, Grace. So this is on you. But Grace isn't satisfied with this and says, but your intention wasn't to make my life feel better. It was to destroy me. And Chanel says, I'm sorry, okay? I really mean it. And Grace thanks her, grabs her coffee and goes to leave. But Chanel stops her and is like, I actually did spit in that one. So she drops it and leaves. But for the moment, it seems like they've made amends. But we've done this song and dance with Grace and Chanel before. Like, let's stop trying to force these people to get along. They're like polar opposite sides of the spectrum. Anyway, our final scene in this episode is at a gym where we see some guy ask another guy if he can cut it in on a chest press. And when he lays down, we see it's none other than Boone Clemens. Boone Clemens, who was killed by the Red Devil at the end of episode 2, but then we saw that he was actually faking his death. We have not seen him for like 5 to 6 episodes. So finally, we're catching up with Boone. He's wearing a wig and a beard, and some guy looks at him thinking that he's Joaquin Phoenix. Even though I Googled what Joaquin Phoenix looked like. Joaquin Joaquin? Quinoa? What am I saying it correct? He looks nothing like him. I don't get what this joke is, and they keep it going in the next episode. It's such a dumb joke. Anyway, Boone gets off the chest press because he gets a phone call, and it's obviously the other Red Devil, aka his twin, and he says, I can't live like this. All I do is work and kill people. Where do you think I am? I'm in the gym. Yeah, I'm wearing a disguise. What do you think, I'm an idiot? However, we see a bunch of people taking photos of him. But they think he's Joaquin Phoenix. But anyone who would know him would know that he's not Joaquin Phoenix. So it's just like he's not being inconspicuous at all. But he says, look, Gigi's the problem. She's the one who got us into this. Now she's blowing our brand. I mean, who shows up in a Justice Scalia costume? Alrighty, so that's confirmation that Gigi was one of the people trying to attack Dean Munch in the Justice Scalia costume. Gigi's got to go. She's the weak link. We take her out, then we finish what we set out to do. And that is the end of the episode. Alrighty, so it looks like there were two Red Devils who were the boy and girl twins of the woman who died at the party at Kappa House 20 years ago in the bathtub, who then got taken care of in the sane asylum by the hag of Shady Lane, who is Gigi, are now going to try and kill Gigi and stage a coup because she's messing up with their plan. So not only do we have this attack coming towards Gigi, but we also have Boone back in the picture and he's alive. So we're going to need to see how this is going to play out for all of our characters. Alrighty guys, let's get into our final episode for this video. Season 1, Episode 9, titled Ghost Stories. So we begin the episode with Boone, who has made it to Wallace University campus. He's on the phone with someone, presumably the other Red Devil, aka his twin, and he says, damn straight I'm out in public. I'm the master of disguise. Meanwhile, he's got a bunch of people taking photos of him and he's signing autographs because people still think he's Joaquin Phoenix. This is such a stupid joke. I'm not giving it any more airtime because he looks nothing like Joaquin Phoenix. And on the phone, he's like, okay, so we're agreed. We take out Gigi tonight. So the Gigi murder plan is afoot. Asking his Red Devil twin, how's Zayday? Yeah, she good? Okay. So clearly the other Red Devil is in close proximity to Zayday, and also we'll remember that one of the Red Devils kidnapped Zayday and wined and dined her, so could that have been Boone? Well, maybe we'll get confirmation of that, but it looks like he has a crush on her. Anyways, Boone has to get off the phone because he gets interrupted by Chanel number 3, who recognizes him, and he's like, no, I'm Joaquin Phoenix, and she's like, no, you're Boone. But wait, you're supposed to be dead. So that means, and he realizes that he's been caught, so he's about to come clean. But Chanel number 3 says, you're a ghost. And he just goes along with that. And number 3 said, you've come to get revenge on me because I said you couldn't gay pledge Kappa. I'm sorry about that. Please don't kill me. I'm sort of gay too now. R.I.P. Sam, aka Predatory Les. During this, Boone is walking towards her, so she pleads and covers herself and is like, please, no. And then when she opens her eyes, he's not there. But then he appears next to her and says, boo. So she runs away, screaming, ooh. After this weird scene, we go to Kappa House where Chanel says to her minions,
listen up, hog-faced sluts.
just because tonight's our last night at Kappa House before we're forced to evacuate campus doesn't mean you get to mope around acting all sad. And number 5 asks why they wouldn't be sad. They live in a house dead. 6 people have been murdered in this house the past month and they want to leave. Number 3 then asks Chanel why she's dressed like that because she's wearing a costume, and Chanel says, well, Einstein, Thanksgiving is next Thursday, and if any of you stupid whores ever cracked open a book every now and again, you would know that I'm dressed like Sacagawea because she helped the pilgrims with their first harvest on what is now known as the first Thanksgiving. They then all have a bunch of back and forth on like Pocahontas, Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, like who did what with the Native Americans and the pilgrims and this and that. I'm not American, so I'm gonna skip past this because I don't really have much of an opinion. But either way, it turns out that Chanel got her history wrong and is wearing the wrong outfit, and she says now she's not going to be able to impress Mr. and Mrs. Radwell at the Hamptons. The Chanels are confused what she's talking about, and Chanel's like, oh, did I bury the lead? And then we go to a flashback to see one of Chanel and Chad's 100 Nights of Compliments dates, and Chad says to Chanel, you're so hot you give my bone a bone. Do you know how you've been talking about taking our relationship to the next level? And he gets down on one knee with a ring-size box, and Chanel is so excited, but then Chad opens it to reveal a silver turkey wishbone necklace. I guess he's going to the Conan Gray Wishbone tour. Funny. I just got tickets to that today. I'm so excited. Anyway, digress. Anyway, Chad asks Chanel if she will accompany him to the Hamptons to spend Thanksgiving at the Radwell family compound so she can meet his parents and his brothers, Thad and Brad. So we have Chad, Thad, and Brad. By the way, we'll get to meet this whole family in the next episode. And he says he wants to show Chanel his house, which is on a 50,000 acre cranberry orchard his great-great-grandfather bought from a Shinnecock Native American for 6 glass beads. Yeah, I'm thinking that he probably stole it and colonized it. In present day, Chanel's number 3 and 5 aren't really impressed by this, but Hester, aka Chanel number 6, looks really pissed because lest we forget, she's been crushing on Chad and she wants everything that Chanel has, including her man.
I don't stop till I get what I want.
Chanel says, sorry, you're just jealous, bitches, but every girl that's gotten a Radwell silver turkey necklace has gotten an engagement ring by Christmas. Well, except one. And we go to a flashback where Chad is telling Chanel this story of a girl who his brother Thad was dating, but she wasn't invited to Thanksgiving with a wishbone turkey necklace, but then she showed up anyway, and then she hung herself in the orchard, so now the whole house is haunted. Oh, okay. Okay. So we're gonna see this haunted house in the next episode? One has to wonder. But back in present day, Chanel raises a glass of champagne and the rest do too, and she says, let's all raise a glass to me. The Radwells are the perfect American family, and Chad wants me to be a part of it. So I actually don't care that tonight's the last night at Kappa Kappa Tau, because I've successfully used the sorority for its proper God-given purpose. Hester, aka Chanel number 6, raises her glass and says, to be a part of a sisterhood and make lifelong friends. And Chanel's like, ew, no you idiot, for making me popular enough to get a hot rich husband. Guys, both our families are loaded. I'm about to be like super rich. Chanel number 5 says, not if the ghosts murder you first, and number 3 says, or follows you home and murders you here, and number 6, aka Hester, says, or if you get murdered tonight because it's the last night at Kappa Kappa Tau and it seems highly likely that the serial killer will come after us tonight. But regardless, Chanel salutes her glass to Kappa. She's keeping that positive energy about her. But once again, Girly is gonna fall flat on her face, because if there's one thing you can guarantee from Chad is he's gonna cheat on her, he's gonna be an idiot, and he's gonna pull some dumbass shit. So let's see what he's got in store for her in this episode. We then catch up with our least favorite character, Grace, who's in her room looking miserable after she found out who her real mother is. Girl, who cares? Zayde walks in and is like, you haven't started packing yet? Because everybody's leaving because the campus is shutting down, right? But Grace is like, nah, I'm just gonna stay on campus, like appreciate the quiet, so Pete and I can do some more investigating. I don't get it. The university's closing down, but you can just choose to stay there? Make it make sense. But Zayde's like, your dad's okay with that? Because obviously Grace's dad is super protective. And Grace is like, I don't care what my dad thinks. He can go to hell. As if I'm gonna spend Thanksgiving with him and Gigi. And Zayde's like, well, you can't spend Thanksgiving here on campus where you're gonna get killed by the Red Devil. Come home with me to Ohio. You can hang out with my cousins and my grandma, have a classic Oakland style Thanksgiving. They hug, it's cute, besties. But anyway, I can barely stomach this scene because I can't with Grace. Downstairs in the living room, and Denise is helping the Chanels pack all of their clothes as they're moving out, and she's making them bubble wrap everything, even though they don't want to, but it's literally couture, like $60,000 one-of-a-kind dresses, so she's like, bubble wrap that shit. And Denise is like, besides, I like playing with bubble wrap. I think it's because I'm not allowed to use a firearm. I like to pop the little bubbles and pretend that my finger's a gun. So she starts doing that, and Chanel number 3 screams because she's highly on edge. And she comes out with her confession. This is my confession. I used to love playing with bubble wrap. It never comes in packaging anymore. I guess it's because it's like bad for the environment, but that stuff was so fun. Number 3 says, I'm sorry, okay, I can't keep this a secret any longer. I'm personally being haunted by a ghost. They're all confused, and she's like, you heard me. Last night I was walking around campus and I saw the ghost of Dead Gay Boone. The ghost of Dead Gay Boone is walking this earth. We had like a full-on conversation. It's really funny how she keeps saying the ghost of Dead Gay Boone, because it kind of reminds me of that line in Heather's, like, no, my dead gay son.
I love my dead gay son.
And obviously we know the show is like heavily inspired by Heathers, you know, the Heathers, the Chanels, etc. Also the return of Boone's main personality trait being that he's gay. None of the other Chanels believe number 3, but Denise says, ooh, that is creepy, being haunted by a ghost on a campus that's being stalked by a serial killer on your last night at Kappa Kappa Tau.
A night when all of you are most likely to be murdered.
And she tells them to put down the bubble wrap, turn out the lights, and gather around the fireplace. And they do so, and she says, Mama Denise is gonna tell you a scary ghost story. And they're all like, no, why the hell would you do that? Like, we're already terrified. But Denise says whenever she's scared of something, like the IRS coming after her, for example, she likes to tell herself a scary ghost story so that the fear is replaced. I mean, I guess the logic track, you would think it'd be the opposite, like when you watch a horror movie, when you want to watch something silly and fun after to like calm yourself down before you go to bed. They all go along with it, and Denise tells them a scary ghost story called The Kappa. Denise tells them the Japanese got all manner of weird ghost stories, and the one about Kappa is the creepiest of them all. They live in the sewer, and they're just waiting for you to sit your ass on the toilet so they can reach up and grab your ass, snatch you by the vagina, and drown your crushed body in raw sewage. If you're just listening to this video, not watching it, I would have played clips of this depiction on it. They have like a Japanese girl in a bathroom that looks like Kappa, but is made in a more of a Japanese style bathroom. And we see the creature and we see it suck her into the toilet. So Nell doesn't believe that this is a real story, but Denise says to look it up. So I did. And lo and behold, it's real. The Kappa is a creature from Japanese folklore, often depicted as a mysterious but dangerous water spirit. While sometimes seen as a benign nature spirit or a source of prosperity, the Kappa ghost story typically refers to its malicious reputation for drowning people, particularly children, and stealing their internal organs, like the mythical Shirakadma. That sounds terrifying. And honestly, the story really does scare me, because when I was younger, I watched Snakes on a Plane, and in that film, a snake comes out of the toilet and like like bite someone's off, and that shit scared me so bad. I would always be scared of either like snakes coming out of the toilet or sharks being in a pool or a spider crawling in my ear. Spooky. Creepy Chanel number 6 says that she loved that story, and Denise says, see, I know you'll feel better now. Now you're scared of the Kappa. You're not even thinking about the serial killer on campus or the ghost that's stalking you. And the Chanels are like, yeah, we are. You just made it worse. So Denise decides to tell them another Japanese ghost story called The Red Cloak.
Who lurks in women's bathroom?
What? Why? Another story about a bathroom.
The Red Cloak waits until you run out of toilet paper, and then he makes you choose the red toilet paper roll or the blue roll. And if you pick the red roll, he'll slit your throat, and the blood will run down your neck, make it look like you're wearing a red coat. But if you pick the blue roll, he'll strangle you till you turn blue, and it'll look like you're wearing a blue cloak. Denise says the end. I bet you feel better now. And besides Hester, who loved that story, the other Chanels are freaked out and are like, no, now we're even more scared. Except now I need to use the toilet, but I'm too scared to use the bathroom, so I'm gonna go find a salad bowl to squat over under the stairs. We then go over to the Dickie Dollar fraternity house, where Chad is packing up his clothes, vacuum sealing them all, when Boone walks into his room, and Chad shook, saying, so it's true. You've come back to haunt us. Listen, you probably already know this, but I had sex with a couple girls in your bed. I'm sorry, I just really wanted that vacation sex kind of feeling. So yes, more girls that Chad is cheating on Chanel with. But Boone doesn't care. He smiles and him and Chad hug, and Chad's like, dude, you're so warm. I thought ghosts were like cold or like vapor or something. But Boone tells him everything you know about ghosts is a lie, Chad. Ghosts walk among you every day. You would never know it. Only us ghosts know who is a ghost and who isn't. And Chad asks why Boone's back, and he says, I've come back for the same reason all ghosts come back. I've got unfinished business. Okay, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Ghost Whisperer. Boone says that he needs to borrow Chad's date shirt because he wants to take Zayday Williams out on a really nice expensive date to impress her. And Chad's like, Boone, you know Zayday's a chick, right?
You forget you're super gay.
Yeah.
And I guess Boone did forget, so I guess he's not actually gay, and for some reason that was like a character choice he decided to make, or like a disguise. And he says, but I don't want to be dead anymore, bro. If I can get Zayday to love me and have sex with me, then I get to stay on Earth. Chad asks how that works, and Boone says, haven't you ever heard the phrase, once you go black, you never go back? That's how that started. What? Okay. Is that racist? Ryan Murphy, I think we've got questions for you. But Chad tells Boone that Zayday is with Earl Grey, and Boone says, don't worry, I'll straighten him out. Ooh, you'll be sleeping with the fishes before you know you're drowning. Back at Kappa House, Denise goes to use the toilet, but when she gets inside the stall, she sees that there's red toilet paper or blue toilet paper, just like the story that she told to the Chanels. So she's really spooked out, and then she starts hearing noises, and then she looks up to see the red devil's hands creepily come over the stall. She screams, the red devil jumps in the stall, they're fighting, and she's trying to fight back. She grabs a taser out from under her skirt and goes to try and zap the red devil, but the red devil bangs her arm against the stall, so the taser goes up in the air, rendering it useless. The red devil then grabs her by the head and tries to give her a swirly, like dunking her head in the toilet, but she's not going to let that happen because she just got her hair done. So she manages to headbutt the red devil, gain control, and shove the red devil's head in the toilet, giving him a swirly. And because the red devil's so disorientated, she manages to escape. Honestly, kind of a fun scene, and it was really funny to see Denise get attacked for the first time by the red devil. I mean, I guess it was that one time she ran away when Chandel got stabbed in the neck. But she didn't actually see the red devil, so that was really fun. Denise then runs into a room where all the Chanels are and tells them how she was just attacked by the killer, and number 5 says, that's it, they gotta get out of here. But Denise closes the door and says, we're not going anywhere, not till I hear another ghost story. If I don't hear another ghost story right now, I might just have a stroke. Number 5 says, but if we stay in here, the killer could come in and chop off our heads. And Denise grabs some handcuffs from under her skirt. Oh, she's got so much under there, it's like the Mary Poppins of skirts, and she uses them to lock the door and says, well, that's just a chance I'm willing to take. Nope, we ain't going anywhere. Which is crazy that she wants to stay locked in the same house as the red devil. But she goes on and says, besides, Denise Hempfield is not going to make it down that crazy, overly dramatic staircase without having a damn heart attack. So Chanel's like, can someone just please tell a ghost story? And number 6 says, I have one. And they all sit around the fire again for another ghost story. This time from Hester, who says, it happened in the 1950s. A sorority sister was returning to campus after getting her license for the first time, when suddenly she found herself on a quiet road in the middle of the night. And we hear the radio playing music, but it stops from an announcer who says, "We interrupt Roy Brown to give you this emergency news bulletin. William Masterson, aka the Meat Hook Killer, has escaped from maximum security Breslau Asylum, where he was being held for the grisly murder of 10 people. The public is recommended to lock their doors, stay inside, and avoid the areas around Lake Ross." The woman listening to the radio driving the car looks up to see a street sign that says "Entering Lake Ross area." She gets really scared and starts speeding her car, but then a truck behind her starts honking at her and shining its lights at her. She gets scared and drives into a gas station, where she runs out to a man who's there and says, "Please, please help. He's trying to kill me." But the truck driver gets out and says, "Call the cops. There was someone in the back of our car. He was gonna kill her. I tried to warn her. Every time he popped up, I would honk and flash my high beams to scare him back down." And we see in a flashback that that was happening. But when they open the car door, there's nothing there but a meat hook. So was he a ghost? We don't know. Number 5 has to ruin the fun like she always does and says, "If he escaped from a mental institution in the middle of the night, then where did he get a meat hook from?" And Hester says, "'Cause he's the meat hook killer." The story would suck if there wasn't a meat hook. But it worked for Denise, who says, "That scared me good. I feel my blood pressure coming down and I'm not gassy no more. We can all leave now." At this point, number 5 has reached her breaking point and says, "The killer could still be out there." Well, he's probably gone by now, exactly like we should all be. I mean, if we've learned anything from all of this, is that he's crazier than us and smarter than us. And even though we all seem so unwilling to do whatever it takes to survive, he's not going to stop until all of us are dead. He is the predator and we are the prey. The only way to stop these killings is to cut off his food supply. She thinks she ate with that. She kind of did, but number 3's confused like,
When did he start eating us?
Girlie clearly didn't understand the analogy. Number 5 gets up and says, "Well, you know, you guys are more than welcome to stay here and be next on his list, but I'm leaving campus immediately. Not that it matters, I wouldn't put it past him to hunt us all down one by one." And she goes to leave and Chanel's like, "Let her go. Let's wait to see if she makes it down the stairs to see if the killer's still out there." And they're all like, "Yeah, because they don't care about her ass." We then go into Zayday's room and she's hanging out with her boyfriend, Earl Grey, while she's packing up her things. And she's like, "Oh, I wonder if there's any direct flights from Oakland to London." But he says it doesn't matter because he'll always come to her. So cute. We haven't actually seen this couple since episode 6, and then we saw them briefly in episode 4. They're a very undershown couple. But anyway, Earl Grey says to Zayday, "You know, we haven't actually kissed yet." So they do kiss, and they're kissing on the bed. It's getting a little hot and heavy, but Earl Grey pulls back and says, "Wait, I want this to be perfect. I need my lotions, my silk robe, my massages, a bottle of champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries." Damn, little gentleman. And Zayday's like, "You have all of that in your room?" And he's like, "Uh-huh." And she's like, "Okay, playa." So he goes to leave to get those things. She's feeling smitten until she hears a creepy noise coming from the window, and it's none other than Boone Clemens. He's come up in an Oxford shirt that he borrowed from Chad, and he's also got a bouquet of flowers. Zayday's a bit shook by this and promptly says, "I thought you were dead." And Boone's like, "Yes, I am dead. I'm the ghost of Boone, but you could just call me Boone." Zayday compliments his shirt, and he's like, "Thank you. You know what it's made of?"
Boyfriend material.
So, the afterlife is kind of a weird place, but I don't know if you know this about me, but I was a pretty amazing person when I was alive, and because of that, when I got to heaven, they offered me what I wanted, but I said what I want more than anything is to come back down to earth as a ghost and make sweet love to Zayday Williams. A couple times, actually. Maybe we can even date for a little. Zayday declines and shoves the flowers back into Boone and accuses him of faking his death. Then Grace comes into the room and is shook to see Boone, like, "Boone? What the hell?" Zayday's like, "Boone's trying to seduce me with the oldest trick in the book. He says he's a ghost." Grace gets on her investigative-ish, but she says, "It all makes sense now. You faked your death to draw the suspicion away from you." And Boone's like, "What? Are you saying I'm the Red Devil?" And Zayday grabs his hand where we see an injury, and she says, "We both know that this isn't a birthmark on your hand. This was from when I stabbed you in your evil lair. You're coming with us." And Grace and Zayday try and grab Boone, but he's fighting back, and he pulls free of them, but then accidentally falls out of the window. But when Grace and Zayday look down off of this 2-story window, Boone is nowhere to be seen. Ooh. Zayday and Grace run down to the living room, freaking out to the Chanels, and Chanel's like, "What's wrong with you guys? It looks like you just saw a ghost." And Zayday is like, "We did." And Grace is like, "No, we didn't. It's Boone. He faked his death." And number 3 says, "That doesn't make sense. How can Boone be a ghost if he's not dead?" And Grace is getting pissed off with these idiots. Like, that's because he isn't. At this point, number 5 has made it downstairs with her luggage, and she's like, "Oh, this is insane.
I mean, why are we even still here?
If we stay in this house, we're all gonna die." So then she leaves, and Chanel's like, "Oh," she's about to stop her, but then she's like, "Actually, I don't really care."
As you were, ladies.
We see number 5 running out through the backyard with her luggage, and then we also see Earl Grey walking with all of his sexy time supplies, but then we see a shadow coming up from behind him, and it's the Red Devil who stabs him in the back. He falls to the ground, and as he's bleeding out dying, the Red Devil takes off his mask, and we see that it is none other than Boone Clemens, aka Boone Doyle, one of the babies from the girl who died in the bathtub 20 years ago in Kappa. By now, this isn't really much of a reveal, but Earl Grey is shook to see that it's Boone, and he's like, "I thought you were dead." And to make things crystal clear, if we weren't aware, Boone's like,
"Wasn't."
it's kind of an annoying reveal because like we've known that Boone faked his death since episode 2. We've known that he was the bathtub baby since like the last episode. So this reveal is kind of ass. But I will say the next Red Devil reveals, as you can see, we've got 2 more reveals, are a lot better than the first 2. But anyway, R.I.P. Earl Grey, whose entire personality was being British, and he was named after a tea. You were an extremely boring character. You will not be missed. We're really trimming the fat off the cast here, aren't we? We then catch up with number 5, who's driving in her car listening to the radio when the announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt the Go-Go's to give you an emergency news bulletin. There's currently an ABB to look out for Boone Clemens in connection to the recent Red Devil killings. Boone is very handsome, but police are requesting that you do not approach him as he may be dangerous."
He also may or may not be gay.
This Boone being gay thing. Is he gay? Is he not gay? That is the question. Number 5's a bit spooked, and she then hears a horn honking, looking behind her to see that there's a truck flashing its lights at her, and we see the silhouette of the Red Devil come up behind her, but then the trunk honks again, flashes its lights, she turns around, the Red Devil goes back down. So Chanel number 5 pulls into the gas station, so does the truck driver. And he's like, "I was just trying to warn you, there was someone in your back seat trying to kill you." They both look in the back of the car to see nothing there, and the driver's like, "I could have sworn I saw someone." Granted, I am pretty high on Adderall and I've been on the road for 35 hours straight. Commentary on the savagery that truck drivers go through. But I'm telling you, he was there. He had this machete looking thing. At this point, the Red Devil has come up behind the truck driver and stabs him in the back and starts hacking him up and killing him. But luckily, Chanel number 5 manages to get in her car and drive away and ends up going right in the direction of Wallace University. So it seems like the Red Devils don't want their Kappa girls escaping. Back at the Dicky Dollar Scholar house, Chad is still vacuum sealing his clothes when Hester, aka number 6, aka Neck Brace, comes in saying, "Why not me?" And Chad gets a fright and is like, "Okay, first of all, do not startle me while I'm packing. I take my packing very seriously. I was just in the packing zone, now I'm out of the zone." Because yeah, he's been packing his bag this entire episode throughout all of these events that's been going on. It's really funny. I just love when they have stupid, silly humor like this in Scream Queens. Anyway, number 6 says, "I just want to know why it isn't me you're taking home for Thanksgiving in the Hamptons." And Chad's like, "First things first, it's Hester, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What's going on with the neck brace?" Because she's wearing her neck brace again. We haven't seen her wear it since episode 3 when Chanel gave her that makeover. Hester tells him, "My spinal cord was collapsed, so I decided to bedazzle my neck brace and put it back on. Honestly, you're the first person to even notice that I'm wearing it again. That's how seamlessly it goes with my designer wardrobe. But you haven't answered my question." Chad says, "What? As to why I'm inviting Chanel to Radwell Thanksgiving and not you?" Okay, let me see if I can explain this to someone who A, isn't a psychology major, and B, clearly doesn't get the fact that I've obviously been ignoring you. Back to that psychology major-ish. I love it.
Chanel, I'm a psychology major, so I'm gonna break this down into terms that you'll understand.
Okay, here are the top 5 reasons I'm not inviting you to Thanksgiving. Number 1, last time we porked, I heard a tiny little squeal like somebody letting air out of a balloon followed by the smell of death. I feel like you farted. Reason number 2, you wear a huge flippin' neck brace. That means you've got bum jeans, and those bum jeans would pollute the Radwell gene pool. Number 3, your breath always smells like you just ate a cheeseburger. Seriously, it's like making out with the hamburglar. Number 4, you, my friend, have a poo belly. Might have something to do with all those cheeseburgers. Oh, so funny. I don't know how they think of these lines. Reason number 5, this just in, you're not rich, and Chanel is loaded. So, Dodoy neck brace, that's why I'm bringing her home to my parents. Hester says they'll just have to wait and see, and Chad's like, "Yeah, we will, because it's gonna happen." And she's like, "Oh, we'll see." And he's like, "Yes, we will, because Thanksgiving is this Thursday." And she's like, "We'll see." And they have this whole back and forth argument about time.
We'll see.
Yep, sure will, as the arrow of time flows in one direction.
It's kind of funny. You know, I do love how literal Chad is. It's like when he got into that argument with Candle Girl about Truth or Dare in episode 6.
It's the whole point of Truth or Dare, you can't lie. I'm sorry, the game's pretty damn simple.
Back at the Kappa House living room, at this point, all the girls now know about Earl Grey's death, and Grace is comforting Zayday, but also still on her investigative-ish. Grace is like, "It must have been Boone," and Zayday is like, "I just can't believe it." And number 5, who's back at this point, is like, "You know what I can't believe? I cannot believe that no one is comforting me after I was almost murdered by the Red Devil who was in the backseat of my car and then barely escaped as some poor old truck driver was hacked to death with a machete. You know, I thought I would have at least gotten some props for coming back with an amazing, scary story." And Chanel's like, "Actually, number 5, that story is neither scary nor amazing. That is the exact same story about the meat hook killer that Hester told about an hour ago. Honestly, if you're gonna get attacked, please get attacked in some fresh, exciting way." Speaking of, we gotta give Chanel number 5 an official attacked symbol because she has been a victim of the Red Devil. Grace brings them back on topic and says, "Guys, the puzzle pieces are slowly coming together. Now we know that Boone is one of the Red Devils." And Chanel's like, "Newsflash, moron, there are 2 Red Devils." But before they can get into this, Zayday says they should call the cops, and Grace says that she already did. The police have put out an all-points bulletin out on Boone, and Denise is aiding in the investigation. Some fat lot of good she's gonna do, but that explains where Denise is. Chanel number 3 is really freaked out and asks if someone can tell her a scary story to make her feel better, and Hester then comes in and says, "I have one. It's about a girl who never fit in. As much as she tried to be popular, the mean girls were always trying to tear her down." Girl, they literally let you into their group. I digress. She goes on to say, they could never see past her neck brace. Well, you haven't had a neck brace for like 2 weeks, but I digress. She goes on saying she soon realized the only way she would get back at these girls would be to screw Chanel's boyfriend, Chad Radwell, and wreak the ultimate vengeance. Chanel shocked because she knew Hester wanted to sleep with Chad, but she didn't know they actually slept together. But at this point, Chanel just assumed almost anyone who wants to sleep with Chad Radwell will sleep with Chad Radwell. The man literally used to jerk it to graves.
So, name's Chad.
I get you more than anyone. I also find the thought of dead bodies extremely arousing.
Anyway, Hester says, that's right, Chanel. Her name is me. And guess what, bitch? I'm pregnant. Oh. Everyone looks so shocked, and now Chanel looks like she's seen a ghost. And Hester's pleased with herself, saying, looks like I'll be going to the Hamptons for Thanksgiving with the Radwells. Guess who's top bitch on campus now, Chanel? Ooh. Honestly, I'm glad we brought back the beef between number 6 and Chanel, because it's one of my favorite parts of the show, because not Rachel, I'm thinking, got Glee on the brain. Leah Michelle plays Hester so well. She's so crazy and creepy. I like the camaraderie. I mean, I'm inside of me. Chanel then goes over to the Dickie Dollar Skeller house to talk to Chad, who is measuring his items, and she's like, you're still packing? And Chad's like, excuse me for taking pride in a quality pack job, Chanel.
Packing matters to me.
He's literally still packing. He's been doing it all night. It's such a stupid joke, but I love it for some reason. And Chad goes on and says, packing matters to me. That's why I choose to minor in luggage sciences with an emphasis in packing theory. Alrighty, so now we know all of Chad's academic information. He's doing a Bachelor of Psychology with a minor in luggage sciences with an emphasis in packing theory. I'm not sure what the two have to do together, but I love it. Chanel asks about Hester being pregnant, and Chad's like, yeah, I really screwed up. And she's like, so it's true? And Chad says, I mean, I guess so. I've got really strong swimmers, but I mean, most of the time we always porked in a way that couldn't result in pregnancy, if you know what I mean. And we do know what he means.
Do you think you're man enough to take me inside that house and attack my crack?
Chanel's crying. She's really upset. And Chad's like, I'm sorry, Chanel. Look, I'm as pissed off about this as you are. This Hester chick is weird. Tossing her the bone was not even all that fun. But I guess I gotta marry her now. Take her home to Thanksgiving. Chanel's shook by this because she was literally still willing to stay with Chad after all this, which is like beyond. But Chad's like, that's the Radwell way, Chanel. We make our beds and we lie in them. Even if it is with our neck brace scoliosis wives. Hey, watch yourself. I've got scoliosis of the lower back. It's really painful. And he says to Chanel, but don't worry, babe. You could still be my piece on the side. And Chanel's not having this. For one, she's standing up for herself. Chad's like, I don't know what you want me to do about this. And Chanel's like, I want you to pay. You might even pay the ultimate price. She goes to leave, but Chad stops her and says, the ultimate price? Did you just threaten to kill me, Chanel? Chanel, are you the killer? Chanel stops and turns and looks over her shoulder and says,
I guess we'll see.
I love that. I love it. I also love the parallel of like Hester being like, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. And Chanel doing it because she does it in like a much your way, Avi. Chanel then goes back to Kappa House and has a meetings with the other Chanels in her closet and says, I owe both of you the most heartfelt of apologies. Remember when I said that the only thing a sorority's ever been good for is scoring a rich hot husband? Well, I was wrong. Kappa House is, and always has been, first and foremost, a sisterhood. That's literally what Chanel number 6 said. Anyway, she says, and I've never needed my sisters more than now. Number 3 accepts her apology. She's like, yeah, whatever. But number 5's like, no, not so close. I'm not gonna just accept any old apology, Chanel. I mean, you treat me like garbage every single day. Am I supposed to ignore the obvious fact that you hate me and love nothing more than playing super humiliating pranks on me? Like, remember that one time when you hacked into my mom's email and wrote me this really long letter explaining how I was adopted and born with fetal alcohol syndrome and therefore had the IQ in the low 60s? Chanel's like, yeah, sorry, but that prank was hilarious and I stand by it. And honestly, good thing I like my friends canceled. I like them dropped in Gucci and in scandal. Welcome to my underworld where we all get dark. At least you know exactly who your friends are. Anyway, number 3 says, sisters don't always get along, but that doesn't mean they're not sisters. Chanel says, exactly. Okay, now that we're a sisterhood again, we need to figure out a way to get rid of Chanel number 6. Number 5 asks some clarifying questions, like, does Chanel mean, like, just make her leave or kill her? And Chanel says, honestly, number 5, do you think I'm insane?
The bitch seduced my boyfriend into getting her pregnant. Of course I mean kill her.
Number 5's like, Chanel, you can't just run around murdering people, okay? That just means you're the killer. Number 3 says, no, it doesn't mean she's the killer. It means she's a killer. Okay, technicalities, what is her major? Number 5 asks what killing number 6 will achieve. And Chanel says, hello, everything. Number 6 will be dead. I'll get my invite back to the Radwell family compound in the Hamptons. And I'll be right back on track to getting the only thing this sorority's been good for. Scoring a hot, rich husband with an enormous fortune. Which is hilarious because she literally said the opposite of that a few minutes ago. And number number 5 calls her out on that and is like, you just said you didn't care about any of that stuff and this is about a sisterhood. And Chanel's like, yeah, that was when I thought I had taken our lifelong friendship for granted and lost it forever. But now that I see that we're stronger than ever, e.g. planning a murder, I can concentrate on the things that I care way more about than a sisterhood. E.g. hot husband, extreme wealth, etc., etc. Try to keep up Chanel number 5. The logic is not that complicated. And it's not. Girl, you need to turn that thinking cap on. And she says to the two of them,
Come on, murder, ideas, go!
This is very full circle because the first episode we discussed in this video, the Chanel minions were trying to find a way to kill Chanel, but now Chanel and her 2 minions are trying to find a way to kill the newest Chanel. All these Chanels be wanting to kill each other. Down in the Kappa living room, Detective Shizem along with Kathy Munch are talking to Grace and Zayday about the whole incident, and Shizem says, I understand that you're upset, but this is a critical time in our investigation. So if you can just close your eyes and try your best to describe what Boone looks like, she'll be able to sketch him up. And Zayday is like, you already have like 50 photos of him because he's like a person you already know what he looks like. Just stupidity once again with Shizem, literally brain dead. Someone dropped him on his head when he was a baby. But I do think it is kind of a critique of the judicial system, the cops, and the mentality that some of them have, or lack thereof. He might as well said spell it out for me like I'm 5, because Grace does that for him and he still struggles to understand it. She says Boone's faked his death. He's been walking around campus in disguise for weeks. He's murdered like 13 people. We need to call the FBI or something because clearly this is out of your capacity as a detective. Shizem says he agrees, which is why he's asked Paul Cameron to assist him. We then go to the other side of him where there is another person there, a man with a giant briefcase saying, I'm the founder of an organization called the Department of Paranormal Exploration, or DOPE. Shizem says, since these killings have begun, I focus my investigation on one single theory, that the perpetrator of these murders has not been caught because he is a ghost.
Oh my God.
Lola shake their heads saying, God help them when I can. Paul Cameron undoes his suitcase saying he'd like to set up some of his equipment so he can get some electromagnetic field readings to see if maybe his microphones could pick up some ghost chatter. And he warns Zayday saying, if your boyfriend was murdered, he may or may not be ready to pass over and therefore may come and pay you a visitation. If that happens, I beg of you, I implore you, do not have sex with them. The women are over it at this point and Grace is like, what is wrong with you? And Munch is like, look girls, I'll handle this. And Zayday's pissed, as she should be, and says, oh, like you've handled all of this so far? All you've done is sit back and watch as we've gotten picked off one by one. Once again, I don't understand why you all don't just leave campus. And Zayday's like, Earl Grey was a good man with powerful arms and a sexy accent. Now he's dead. His blood is on your hands. Okay, was he really that amazing? Kind of boring, kind of flop, whatever. Anyway, Zayday walks off and so does Grace, and Shizem tries to comfort Munch, saying that Zayday's wrong, and Munch says, no, she's not. You know, the only benefit of meeting you is now that I know that I clearly have a type, and that type is a moron. I'm not only going to make sure that you're taken off this case and fired, but I'm going to make sure that everyone that you know knows that when we had sex, you asked me in baby talk if you could nurse from me. Oh, well, okay. I mean, different strokes for different folks, I guess. Might want to address those mommy issues in therapy. Maybe he does have a brain of like a baby, and that's why he's dumb, and that's why he wants to breastfeed. Thinking. While everybody's thinking outside the box, I'm thinking inside the box. Because while everybody's outside of the box thinking, no one's in the box thinking. Munch goes up to Zayday and Grace's room and they're packing their stuff, and Zayday's like, if you come to apologize, we're not interested. But Munch says, oh, I never say sorry. I've done what I've had to do for the sake of the school and my career, both of which will be here long after you and any other students here are gone, either through graduation or death. And Grace is like, it's a wonder your husband left you. I mean, girl, first things first, she's a realist. Munch does offer up a little tidbit. I mean, basically what she should have told Grace at the beginning of the episode. She says, I do have something that might be of interest to you. That night in the tub, there were 2 babies. After I sent your mother and her 2 slightly less bitchy friends out to get pillowcases and shovels, the girl in the bathtub that we thought was dead let out a death rattle that was so loud and powerful, she expelled a second child from her freshly deceased womb.
I knew it. Congratulations on making this moment all about you.
Alrighty, so this is confirmation that there were 2 babies, 2 twins. Like, I don't know why in this show we get the same thing confirmed in like multiple different ways. Like, it's so annoying because like this isn't a gag. Like, we already know that there's 2 red devils. They're probably the babies. It's not that hard to think that they're twins. Then we see the lady in the asylum with the painting of Gigi with the 2 babies. Then we see Boone talking to someone who isn't Gigi. Like, it's just not that gaggy of a reveal. But whatever, I digress. They have to spoon feed us like we're idiots, like we're Shizem. Zayday's asking if Munch is saying that Boone was that baby in the bathtub. And Munch is like, my money's on yes. The boy baby in that bathtub had the same cocky grin that Boone has. But that time was the last she ever saw them. And Zayday asks how the babies ended up in a mental institution, and Grace asks, more importantly, how did the babies end up with Gigi? Yes, that is peculiar. We then go over to this fancy hotel suite where Boone is ranting to someone who we don't see yet about Zayday, saying I was wearing this like top and Chad gave me this money for this awesome hotel suite. Like I was gonna try and woo her. Basically told her that my soul couldn't rest unless she got naked with me. Seriously, what kind of person just turns their back on somebody like that? He's super disappointed, but when he sits down, more interestingly, we see he's talking to the other Red Devil, presumably his twin sister, who's in the costume, so we don't hear or see who they are. He asks the other Red Devil if he told Gigi to be there by midnight. They don't respond, and then he's like, hey, do you want to see this cool knife I got to kill her with from the hunting shop? We see a big blade. We then hear a door open, he puts it down, and Gigi walks in and pours herself a drink. She's not happy. She's pissed because he has not been following instructions. She says, oh, I see you're enjoying the good life. You know there's an all points bulletin out for your arrest. You jeopardized a plan that's been almost 20 years in the making after you kidnapped Zayday. Then you disobeyed my instructions to only come out in the Red Devil costume and strolled around campus in broad daylight disguised as Joaquin Phoenix. You then have the brilliant idea of actually going to Kappa yourself, wearing a date shirt and trying to convince Zayday to sleep with you because you're a ghost? Boone, you're the weakest link. Boone is not having this, so he decides to go off on Gigi and give her a piece of his mind, and he walks towards her and says, I spent the first few months of my life motherless, living off scraps of garbage and stolen milk. I grew up in an institution surrounded by people who ate their own poop. That's rough. Not gonna lie. He goes on saying, we've followed your rules, gone along with your plans, but I'm the one who spent 4 years of my life learning how to slow my breathing and heart rate down to the point where even a trained coroner would declare me dead. And I studied film makeup for 8 months straight and practiced on patients so that I could create the perfect slash mark on my throat. Alrighty, so that explains how Boone faked his death. We didn't really need that information, but I suppose it's nice to have it because it did seem very legit at the time with like a coroner and he was in a morgue and everything, so... He goes on saying, I pretended to be gay. No one told you to do that. Not sure why you did. Maybe you are. And went undercover at the Diggy Dollars. And I was the one who masterly pretended to attack you to get the scent off of you. Okay, so we know that he's the one who did that attack with the chainsaw back in episode 3. He goes on saying, so yes, Gigi, for once in my life, I went rogue and took a little something for myself. My mother would have understood. But of course you don't. Because no matter what you like to pretend, you're not our mother. Try not to say mother challenge literally paused. Not failed because he didn't say it. At this point, Gigi's starting to freak out because she's noticing the other Red Devil walking behind Boone towards her with the hunting knife. And she's like, what's going on here? And Boone says, we're grown-ups now, Gigi, and we're done taking orders for you. It's time for you to go. And she screams, pleading for her life as the other Red Devil lifts up the knife. But then in a shocking twist, the Red Devil stabs Boone, and he bleeds out on the ground and dies. The Red Devil kills their twin brother. So that's kind of gaggy. Try not to say mother challenge. Failed. I'm saying mother. So R.I.P. to Boone. Gigi calms herself down now that she's alive and says to the other Red Devil, your commitment to your revenge is clearly greater than your brother's was. Should we get room service? And she steps over Boone's body as the other Red Devil follows her. Ooh! Alrighty, so that went in a different direction. We thought Gigi was going to be the one who was killed, but instead it was Boone. And it looks like there's a lot of infighting between the Red Devils, and we still don't know who the other Red Devil is. We know that it's a girl. Who could that be then? We then go back to Kappa House and Chanel's closet where she's there with the other Chanels and Hester, who's going through her clothes saying, you know, Chanel, I've got to say, I'm both delighted and shocked that you're letting me keep whatever clothes of yours that I want. It's really big of you considering the whole I'm pregnant with your boyfriend's baby thing. and Chanel's like, well, honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I just love Chad so much. And part of loving someone is loving every choice they make, regardless of how selfish and destructive it can be. That's your man. That's your man and you're going to stick beside him. Hester says, thanks, mommy. Return of Hester calling Chanel mommy.
Can I call you mom? What? I thought you'd be cool with it. I mean, I did just give you several ways to dispose of a body. Fine.
Try not to say mother challenge. Paused because she said it.
Thank you, mommy. Thank you.
And she says, oh, and if you want to start calling me mommy now that I'm actually going to be a mommy, I'm totally fine with that. Mommy. We then see that there's a bunch of food and drinks on the center console in Chanel's closet, and Five offers Hester some delicious sushi. And Hester accepts the offer, starts eating that sushi, and number 3 says, here, have a slice of this unpasteurized soft cheese. It makes any sushi that much more delicious. So Hester eats the cheese as well, and then Chanel goes over to her with a glass of champagne and says, here, you've got to try this delicious champagne. It's triple the alcohol and has a nicotine mouthfeel because it's infused with tobacco. So Hester drinks that, delish, and Chanel smacks the glass out of her hand and says, liar! Hester's like, what's going on? And Chanel's like, you're trapped in a web of lies, whore. You've just had sushi, soft cheese, and alcohol, 3 foods that are damaging to embryos, which means you're not pregnant. And Hester's like, that's not true. I just didn't know anything about the whole sushi, cheese, alcohol thing. Girl, how dumb are you? that you don't know about the alcohol thing. Like cheese and sushi maybe, but you drank alcohol. I also love the whole nicotine mouthfeel because it's infused with tobacco. A nice touch. Chanel tells Hester, prove it. You're not leaving here until you pee on every single one of these pregnancy tests. And the Chanels wave a bunch in her face. Hester smiles and says, I really had all of you fooled, didn't I? Fine, you got me. I'm not pregnant, but it doesn't matter because Chad still thinks I am. Yeah, girl, I mean, Chanel could just tell him. But anyway, Hester goes on and says, and being that he already purchased our first class airfare to the Hamptons, that means I'll be the one attending the Radwell Thanksgiving while I have ample opportunity to get pregnant all week long. Chanel's shook by this and Hester runs out of her closet and runs out of her room and Chanel screams in a really funny way. And she goes to chase her, but when she gets to the staircase, she changes her demeanor and she's like, Hester, wait. Hester stops and turns around and says, what? And Chanel's like, Hester, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to go through life feeling like an outcast. And I'm sorry that I got angry that Chad's clearly chosen you over me. It's just that ever since you walked through those doors, I knew that you were going to be the one to take it all away from me. Hester at this point has walked closer to Chanel and is like, really? And Chanel's smile drops and she says, no. And then she pushes Hester down the stairs, the huge dramatic spiral staircase. Hester's tumbling all the way down, and when she hits the floor, we hear a bone break. Could that be her neck? Number 5's like, oh my god, you killed number 6. So they're both freaked out at dead Hester, and Chanel tries to calm them down, saying, I realize that my killing neck brace might just seem like a bridge too far, but trust me when I say this had to happen. And I'm confident that I'll be able to redeem myself morally in everyone's eyes. And furthermore, what I just did will now become a new ghost story, a cautionary tale about what happens to hog-faced bitches who try and steal other Kappa's boyfriends. A story that'll be told around the campfire by Kappa pledges for centuries to come. And then she looks down at number 6's corpse and says,
Okay, let's get her in that meat locker.
Try not to say mother challenge. I love this, so gaggy. This killing was amazing. It was also fun to see Chanel kill again. Obviously, we saw Chanel kill Miss Bean, but that was an accident because she didn't know that the fryer was on when she dunked her face in it. So this is Chanel's first time killing someone. And also, does this mean that Chanel could be the Red Devil killer? Is Hester somehow gonna survive this? Is her body gonna get stolen from the meat locker like a bunch of other people's did? So many unanswered questions. This was a really fun episode. I liked how the ghost stories ended up actually coming true. I think that was probably my favorite part of it. But also I have to give a shout out to Chad's packing storyline. It's so stupid, but to me it's just so funny. Also the return of the Chanel and Chanel number 6, aka Hester feud. I'm loving that. But that's it for me in this episode and this video. This is the last episode we'll be discussing. Let me know what you guys think about all these episodes. What are your favorite moments? No spoiling about the Red Devil if you watch the show. I'm trying to keep the mystery alive. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the post notifications bell so you don't miss another upload from me. And also, once again, thank you so much to ZBiotics for sponsoring this video. If you guys would like to try out ZBiotics pre-alcohol yourself, I highly recommend you do so that you can drink and have fun the night before without feeling rough the morning after. Then you can click the link in my description and that'll get you 15% off your first order of ZBiotics. Alrighty guys, that's it for me in this video. Thank you so much for watching it. As always, I appreciate you being here. I hope to see you in my next video, and I hope that you have a great day or night, wherever you are in the world. Beware of the Red Devil. Bye!